the sweetest thing. Yeah. I left all the joy you bring. Yeah. But I'm coming back, knocking down the door. I'm coming back, Are you ready? Are you ready for more? Are you ready for more? Regrets, oh, I have a few.
Motivated, I'm focused. Came a long way from the lowest. Yeah, gotta get it, the mindset. Gotta put it in motion. This is the moment. Gotta one-up my opponent. Back then, they ain't noticed me. Now they know it's me. I'm the chosen. It's my time, yeah, I put that on Bible. No excuses, gotta get to the final. Take all of my idols and turn them to rivals. It's all or nothing, man, the trophy is vital. Game time, bet I'm coming in clutch. No hang time, man, they can't keep up. The game's on the line, seconds on the time. Who can't fight? It's gotta be us.
Better under pressure, go ahead and let it fall on me. I'm destined for it all, you better call on me. They say what doesn't kill you make you stronger. All that pain, it done made me to a monster. They say what doesn't kill you make you stronger. All that pain, it done made me to a monster.
Yeah, whole lot of times they doubted I wouldn't be who I am without it. Sleepless nights, I counted. It all paid off, it's really astounding. I had to keep the faith to elevate. Hope for better days, they were coming. Now we can celebrate, knowing every day is abundant. Yeah, it's my time, yeah, I put that on Bible. No excuses, gotta get to the final. Take all of my idols and turn them to rivals. It's all or nothing, man, the trophy is vital. Game time, bet I'm coming in clutch. No hang time, man, they can't keep up. The game's on the line, seconds on the time. Who can't fight? It's gotta be us.
Better under pressure, go ahead and let it fall on me. I'm destined for it all, you better call on me. They say what doesn't kill you make you stronger. All that pain, it done made me to a monster. They say what doesn't kill you make you stronger. All that pain, it done made me to a monster. to a monster.
Our story starts here. We've raced through its turns. We've slid tire after tire through its banking. We've drafted down its never-ending straightaways. We've gone faster than we ever thought we could. Here, in the racing capital of the world, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Today, hundreds of drivers will take to those historic turns. They will slide through that banking. They will draft down that straightaway. And they will take their shot to win here on the track that started our sim racing journey together. It's a race that demands skill, knowledge, and a little bit of luck. Because for us, this track and these cars, yeah, they may be virtual, but the next 500 miles of racing, that is real. Welcome to an iRacing special event unlike any other. Welcome to the iRacing Indy 500.
History makers, who decides their legacy today and joins a pantheon of the all-time greats that iRacing has had to offer. This Indy 500 is special, and it's so special we run it on back-to-back weeks. We start with the fixed setup running here in the month of May, and welcome everyone to what is the legacy race of all legacy races. If you want your name in lights, the iRacing Indy 500 is the place for that. My name's Jake Sperry. Alongside with me for today's racing action is Nathan Richards. As we get ourselves set for running, Nathan, this is the marquee race of the month of May, and it is simply put, the 33 best duel it out for 500 miles.
Indeed, Jake, and I wouldn't just say it's one of the best races in May. I'd say it's probably one of the best races in the year, especially when it comes to oval racing. The Indy 500, whether it's in real life or whether it's here on iRacing, is always a spectacle to watch. And of course, heading into this, I can't wait to see what's going to happen. 33 drivers, 200 laps. What more can you ask for?
This is what sim racing heaven would be in my mind, and this will be one of the most awesome experiences to go out to push yourself, and one where they've had to qualify to make sure that their place in the sun has got themselves to where they are in Speedway, Indiana. So as they set themselves ready for today's running, they will know above everything else on this iRacing calendar, the Open is next week, but it's chock-a-block from now up to December. With May into June, we've got 5 events in 5 weeks.
Of course, and we get a little break in June, of course, just with the one event of the Watkins Glen 6 Hour. Of course, you get them prepared for a very, very busy second half of the year. For me, I can't wait for the Petit Le Mans, one of my favourite races on the calendar. And then, of course, you end it off with the Chili Bowl, another great oval race to end off what's going to be a great 2026 season.
It will be an incredible season, and we are just about ready to set ourselves in. Now, talk us through where we are today, the qualifying that we've done, Nathan, and the racing opportunities that have come along for all drivers here in iRacing.
Of course, we had 3 days of qualifying, heavily run sessions, open to everybody, Oval, D, 4.0 and above. And of course, you had unlimited attempts available to qualify for the Indy 500. And then, of course, your splits were decided by your qualifying time and then your overall I rating. But of course, the main thing in terms of recording your laps, it was your 4 average laps. So over 4 laps, it takes your average, and then, of course, that will be what determines your qualifying time. And then, of course, you have 4 opportunities to race. The first 2 time slots have been completed. They were both on Saturday, today at 1 a.m. GMT and 1 p.m. GMT. We're here now at 17 GMT, 5 p.m. for time slot 3. And then, of course, tomorrow at 1 p.m. or 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we have our final time slots of the fixed Indy 500 race day.
We absolutely do. So we are going to get ourselves set then in with that and a car that has seen it all and has done it all. A mark on from the Dan Weldon 12, the IR-18 that adds itself up over 700 brake horsepower from a 2.2 litre twin turbo V6 engine, now with hybrid added to it for this year, which adds a whole new dynamic for how they will go, with over 230 miles an hour hit on the top levels of pace out there. That 6-speed gearbox there, which is paddle shift, and a dry weight of 1,635 pounds. This is going to be a ferocious beast to go and get correct as well, with the in-car tools which are still available to these drivers, the anti-roll bar and the weight jacker able to be moved about. But Nathan, it's one thing to talk about the car, it's one thing to talk about the legacy of this series. Let's talk the second oldest track in the history of motorsport.
Indeed. So here is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here in Speedway, Indiana. 4.02 kilometres, 2.5 miles is this racetrack. 4 corners of a banking of 9 degrees, which we all know causes chaos in these Indy cars. The track itself opened back in 1909, and as everybody calls it, it is the greatest spectacle in racing. I think this is a track that anybody would know, even if he wasn't an Indy 500 fan, even if you didn't watch racing, you still know the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And of course, we'll have a look as well shortly at a lap here in practice. But Jake, what a track this is. It is one of the best, isn't it?
It's got everything, doesn't it? You've got the dirt oval down there in the middle, along with the golf course that is run of Speedway Crossing, which opened in 1929. You've got the likes of Gasoline Alley, which is known as the pit lane. You've got as well the likes where Gronk will be out there, along with probably Tom Brady and Julian Edelman at some point as well, with the Snake Pit. This is a truly majestic circuit as we move on around and talk about practice here. You can see just diving in, practicing pit lane, Carl Klendworth then as he looks to jump through. But talk us through here, because this is short shoot and long straight.
Yes, it certainly is. Here we've got 3 drivers in a train as they make their way through. And of course, you can see a lot of the times when you're pushing full flat around this circuit, as we do see this car now make their way into the pits, as we'll go on board with another driver and try and find somebody that will complete a lap. So heading down towards turn 1, of course, this is a really long run past the pit lane into the first corner. And a lot of the times here, we do see drivers make mistakes. It's quite a big banking after coming after such a high speed. You make the car through, and then we can see as well a car slimming through the inside, Jake. And of course, we know the race itself, 200 laps long, 500 miles, and the pit window's around 30 to 33 laps. But we do know on many occasions, drivers can stretch that to a little bit longer and try and force it maybe to around 37.
Well, that's if you're trying to save and be a hero about it. And I don't think we'll see that until the very end, depending on how the race will go. Expect 30 to 33 as your ballpark. If you're absolutely pushing for it, 28 is probably what you're going to see. But there is a lot of nuance here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we see it so often with Indy 500 runnings. And we talk about fixed versus open, Nathan. And so ultimately, as far as it sits today, we're running a fixed setup, which means most of the things that you would normally do on a car, you can't touch. They're stock for everyone.
Of course, they can use their onboard tools, and of course, they can change the weight jacker. And then, of course, apart from that, they can't really change anything here in the fixed setup race. But, of course, when we go to the open setup, the drivers within, of course, the regulations and the rules can change their car however much they like to. Of course, they can also use the onboard tools, the weight jacker as well. And then, of course, crucially, in the pit stops, they can make adjustments. Of course, they can't do that in this race. But going into an open setup race, sometimes you do need to make those slight adjustments. And that's going to help you heavily in the open setup. Whereas here, it can sometimes harm you heavily if the car to yourself doesn't feel just quite right.
Absolutely, and we're going to have a lot of stories to talk about today, and there are many different drivers who I think are setting themselves up for a run out there. There are also former champions, both fixed and open, who are here as we take a look at the practice times. Indy Kirkenbauer, the 33rd driver to get in, currently has the fastest lap out there. Will that be an omen to see over the course of racing action? But we have 4 former champions going at it here, looking for Indy success. Robert Malechka, the third's looking for his third. Christian Steele looking for his second out there overall. And just looking through, it looks like that we don't have one of them, so we'll be down to 3. So keep an eye out as well on number 11, who got the win over last year in the running action that we had in 2025. And that was the Northern Irishman, Peter Berryman.
Certainly, and this was a very chaotic race. I mean, we all know how it ended, didn't we? We had a very late caution, and it finished under caution once again in the fixed race. But of course, it was a really good drive by Peter Berryman, a driver that when you put him into a situation where he's got to take everything on the last couple of laps, he will do so, won't he? He put himself in the perfect spot, the caution commenced, and that then led him to victory.
It absolutely did, and it was a tough race out there because we had drivers leapfrog and jump in various stages, getting caught up, incidents, wrong place, wrong time. That was Pedro Palladino there on the left-hand side, and here's a look at Team I5G, and this would have been Pablo Espes here, who just got into the side of, I believe at the time, Brendan Lichtenberg, which saw the races end for the pair of them. It was a very tough race towards the end, but critically, for the second straight year, it finished under caution, and you only need to lead one lap to win a race like this. It was 10 led out there, and that was the big one. Robert Malechka, the third, in the wall on the main straight with Jaden Munoz.
Of course, and sometimes all it takes is one little misjudgment by a driver, and it can take 2 of you out of the race. It can take even more out if drivers get caught up. Like we can see there on screen, a slight little tap to the right into the barriers, and the car springs back onto track. And then, of course, we had the big contact between second and third, which, of course, then basically gave Peter Berryman the victory.
Yeah, and he knew as his fight with Aaron Vasquez and Hamilton Akabuezi there, the two come together on the push towards the end. And so for under caution, it would be Peter Berryman who would find himself in control, lighting it up here around this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He'd get his milk, he would kiss his bricks, he would be very happy with the way that his run all went out there. There is the number 11 out there and piloting, and was piloting around earlier on out there. He's in an Apex Academy livery out there, the green colours of the Apex Racing team. He's basically seen himself move through 2 teams, Nathan, over the course of this year. He left the Apex Racing team at the start of the year, went to Drago, and last week Drago folded. So he has had a very turbulent preparation for this race.
Indeed, and of course that really throws you about, doesn't it, when the team closes down about a week before the race. It makes it a little bit more harder in the terms of, first of all, you've got to try and find a new team. You've then got to get adjusted to a whole new group of community, group of drivers, managers. So I think for quite a lot of drivers, it could probably cause a little bit of issues with preparation. But Peter Berryman, I think he knows coming back off last year, he did a really great job, didn't he? He took the victory. He knows he's got the skill to do it. So I suppose for him, it's a bit like, well, I know I can do it anyway. So he's just got to put the prep in himself and then maybe wait till after the race to find a new team.
It's not just about this Indy 500 fixed. It's about every Indy 500 fixed. This was time slot 1. Robert Malechka III went 194 laps green to go and take his victory. Stephen Wilson took it in split 2, an INDYCAR champion there. So you're getting a sense of where the field looks. Justin Melillo, iRacing's own, getting himself a victory. Jensel von Thielen, fantastic sim racer. He was another one who managed to get himself up on the top. But everyone gets their chance to say it's their name in lights at this event.
Certainly, and that's a great thing, isn't it? If you're one of the drivers that's a little bit more further down in the split, you can have your name on the screen on the broadcast, which I'm sure everybody would love to see. And of course, 47 splits in that first time slot. Pretty much anybody can jump in and have a go at racing. And of course, when you're a little bit further down in the splits, that's what makes things a little bit difficult, because you've got to fight through drivers that also are going to be brand new to the Indy 500, just like yourself. And then of course the high splits, Jake, where you get your big drivers, those that you've seen all the big championships, all come together and have a really good race.
Matt Hollybour's seen quite a lot out there, and so too did Xavier Sanchez. But if you want to experience IndyCar and iRacing today, your chance is with us now by visiting iRacing.com, where new members can save 30% off of a brand new membership. You can enjoy the gift that is sim racing today by heading with us over at iRacing by going to iRacing.com/membership. And this is truly one of the most beautiful cars and series to go out there and race. And in the world of iRacing, the world of motorsport in itself, there's truly nothing like it.
Indeed. It's a car I've drove a couple of times. I'm not very good at it, so I don't drive it very often, but it's a beast of a car. You can feel the power when you drive the Dallara IR-18. It's a really, really good car, and I think for a race like this as well, it's perfect because you're at the top level all the time. You're constantly pushing the car.
And let's take a look then through your starting grid here in the iRacing Indy 500 fixed. And the 2024 fixed and open champion will go from pole position as Robert Malechka III will house himself on the front as Chad Simpson and Chris Fondanessa, there for Maniti Racing, will be in third. For Burusud Plus competition, it's Jaden Munoz fourth, as it will be Jason Brophy fifth for Powerslide and Tamas Simon there in sixth. Peter Berryman and Brendan Lichtenberg are 7th and 8th as Lucas Prada starts 9th with Pedro Palladino rounding out your 10.
Indeed, and looking through the next page of our qualifying, we'll see who will start from 11th down to 20th, and of course a really great qualifying, and so close, isn't it? Look at the gaps there. It'll be Daniel Falkingham starting in P11 ahead of Logan Edwards in 12th. Former winner here, Christian Steele, starts in 13th ahead of Jose Soraya in 14th, and David Top, your top 15. Ty Killer in P16 ahead of Matt Taylor in 17th. It's Brandon Tross 18th, Adam Williams 19th, and for Maniti Racing, it's Manuel Sado in P20.
Very experienced driver, Manuel Sudo. Kyle Klendworth will go from 21st with Kevin Birrell alongside with Brendan Clough and Matthew Zwack out there in 24th, who represented the University of Michigan in the College Series. It goes all the way down to Anna Klemick. She just made it in with Leon O'Sullivan and Indy Kirkenbauer, who went through. You got the likes there of Rodan Efting, Aman Lyle, Jose Pizarro, John Silva, Esteban Rodriguez, and Mateo Kunza as well. Well, if there was ever a circuit that decided history and legacy back in 1909 when this circuit was first built, it was this one that said to everybody around the world, how do you stack up and create motorsport at the highest level? The highest speed that was averaged at the first ever Indy 500 was just 72 miles an hour. My, what a difference a century makes in terms of racing. Because for what will be the 23rd time in iRacing history, we start talking about an Indy 500. This is our 17th year of running since our inception of it, and we know that there will be heroes, there will be villains, and there will be understanding from everybody here today that this is a race of 500 miles, and they have to time their runs and know that a race like no other is a race that will never be replicated twice. The results may stay the same, but your legacy, every race has its own story to tell at the fabled Brickyard. Out of turn 4, pace car will move over to the left-hand side and dive in with the pace under the control of Robert Malechka III. Your 2026 iRacing Indy 500 fix starts now! Dramas then off of the start. Jason Brophy gets his front wing knocked by Chris Fondanessa, and he drops way down the pack out of the top 10. It's Malechka who leads. It's Jaden Munoz now following and looking to make the call inside, heading to turn 3.
Indeed, of course, and we know this race it's like a marathon, isn't it? For the first 100, 150 laps, it's about just staying where you are, just being consistent and not losing positions. Then, of course, the final 50 laps is where you push and push a little bit more. So, of course, for the first few laps here, the drivers just need to get settled in. You know, the first stint, it's 33-ish laps long, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. There's no point pushing too hard here and making unnecessary passes. It's just about, you know, getting underway nicely. Jason Brophy there was having a little bit of a battle with Lucas Prada, and of course the poor thing for Brophy is, of course, when he got tapped there by Van der Ness, so that's probably caused him a little bit of damage. So he's already dropping back and already causing a train from P8 to P9 by over a second, as expectedly. Munoz and Mleczka are just going to keep trading that P1 and P2 for now, and then looking further down as well. Those guys from Brophy downwards need to start making some moves and catching up to that leading train. 3 laps in and the 2 seconds behind the main train.
Yeah, so patience is going to be a factor, as will dirty air here. The characteristics of this circuit and car have changed from last year to this one. A big, powerful move then from Jose Soria. Gets him clear then of Jason Brophy, and look at it now. He is going to sink like a stone. Prada now gets the run. Here comes Logan Edwards now with the opportunity on the backstretch with the help from Christian Steele, who's looking to get his first win in a decade, or since 2022, sorry, out here in the sim. So he'll be another one looking to get there. Ty Killer, another one who wants to try and put himself into play. The train is going to work hard, and it's going to see a lot of clearance in the early goings. One car pitting already off at the start of this race, and that is Kyle Klendworth, who is diving in. It's not a penalty for him, but it's a very early call to bring the VOR car down in.
That is a very early call, but in a race like this, we know that some drivers, especially those that start a little bit further down, might try and do something a little bit different, might try a bit of a different strategy. Why not try something new? Because chances are there's going to be a caution at some point, so maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not. We'll have to wait and see over the next few laps. Of course, tyres won't be changed on lap 4, I'd imagine. For now, of course, he'll have the same tyres as everybody. It just means he'll have a little bit more fuel so he can go longer on this initial stint. And I suppose for his sake here, it's the fact of hopefully by the time the end of the normal stint comes as a safety car, he can jump up at the front and then have the lead and just pick with everyone else. That might be his game here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as he just rejoins the race and just joins in just behind the leaders.
And that's going to be critical, because rejoining in and amongst the leaders, he's got to get back onto the leading lap as quickly as possible. There are no lucky dogs out there like you see in NASCAR, so to get the lap back, you've got to do it manually, and you've got to pass the leader in order to get there. So if you think, oh, he's fallen a lap down, that doesn't mean anything. It means the world. Manuel Sudo here is going to have a big battle in the middle. He's now got the run on Jason Brophy. Aman Lyle's found a way through. Now Brendan Clough as well is going to be looking around with Kevin Birrell. This mid-pack has been busy right from the get-go.
It has, and Brophy's just dropping down more and more. There's got to be quite a bit of damage on that car, but then again, it doesn't have to be that much in this race. You can have a couple of tenths of damage, and that can just drop you down the field, which is exactly what it's done. Brophy's down to 22nd at the minute, and it's just not going too well. He wants to get up into that's a car off at turn 3.
That's a big accident. It's going to catch 4 cars in it. Late to the party in the crash is Ahmed Klemic, as Adam Williams found himself turned around on the banking there. It's a first caution after 7 laps. Williams coming together on the main straight with Pedro Palladino.
And it didn't take that long, did it, before we had our first caution of the race. 7 laps in, and the safety car will be out. Of course, Mleczka and Munoz are still up at the front. You've got Van der Ness there in third as well. And of course, for those near the back, this is the type of thing they need to avoid. These incidents, it's very easy to collide when you're right at the back of the field. Everybody's pushing a little bit more because they want to try and, gain that gap on those ahead and maybe make a couple of moves. And sometimes it forces you into a small mistake. And of course, that has cost Williams and Klemic there, who are going to fall right out into the pit lane and pretty much be out of this race in terms of fighting for something good. So, yeah, big shame for those two early on in the Indy 500. And I suppose as well, when you're in a situation like this and you've had to tow back to pit lane, how do you get motivation to carry on? Because at this point you're thinking, we've just started and I'm already pretty much out of it.
Pedro Palladino will look at this. He probably clipped the wall there on the outside coming into 3. He was side by side. That sent Williams into it, and then everyone saw smoke and had to try and scatter. So here's the look from further down. This is Jason Brophy's look at it, and of course he's got less wing out there with the damage go through. And as he sees the incident, he gets tagged from behind as well.
Of course, so there was no way he could avoid that. So I suppose at least he can get the car fixed, given the damage he had before, but it's even worse damage than it was. As many cars a little bit further down the field, Jake, are all piling into the pits on lap 8 of 200. So this is one of those races, isn't it, where we can see really wacky pit stop laps, really early, really late pit stops. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, especially when cautions come out. Many drivers might just jump at that opportunity as soon as that safety car comes out the pit lane.
And it's 2 veterans who were the first 2 into the lane, Nathan. It was, of course, Christian Steele and Brandon Trost. And Brandon Trost might be one of the greatest ever iRacing IndyCar drivers to have never won the Indy 500.
And that's horrible, isn't it? When you know you're so quick, and Trost has been, so close on many occasions, has been up in the top 5, has taken part in many events. It's horrible when you can't win because you know you've got the pace, which is the worst part about it. So Trost going in as one of the early drivers. Maybe today could be his day. It's going to be a long, long way forward for him, but you never know in a race like this. Absolutely anything can happen up front and put you in a good spot. So, of course, he's been in. Jason Brophy's in the pits, of course, with that damage. Same as Palladino and Williams. And then, of course, Brendan Clough is in there as well. But we did see Christian Steele as one of the first drivers to go in of that pack. He rejoins now in 19th place. So we'll see how he can maybe try and work forward ahead of Fazario and Kirkenbauer, who, of course, I think has had a really good start. Started 33rd, he's now 17th, is Kirkenbauer.
Now, different to this year compared to what we've seen from other years is the importance of tyre wear, and it looks a lot bigger this year than we have seen on other years with these Firestone tyres. So as they're looking to go around, we're expecting here, Nathan, a 10-lap difference on tyres, or here an 8 or 9-lap difference on tyres to make a marked difference.
Of course, and that takes a lot, doesn't it? That takes a few pit stops to gain that, because you can't just go 10 laps on one pit stop and boom like that. No, you've got to do it over the stints, a couple of laps every time you make your stop. As he would do see the pit window, of course. If you don't draft, it's 28 laps. But as the saving goes on, you do normal saving, it's 30 to 33. A little bit more saving, 34 to 35. Then absolute saving, which I don't think really makes... I don't think there's any point in doing this, because you're going to have to burn, save so much. You can maybe go up to 37 laps in one pit window, but surely that will cost you so much time by saving that much.
Yeah, so as far as this is going to set, you know that the importance of this race is now saying, right, get yourself down in on level. You've managed to deal with the first little moment out there. This is the chance, the first real chance, I think, in a race, Nathan, when you get the first safety car of the day, the first caution, you breathe. And then you realise everyone's going to want to be aggressive behind you, want to go and move, want to go and make places, want to go and find a way to jump on through. So how do you assess that position is going to be key, but it's going to be a key that they're not going to have much time for left, because already the light's off on the iRacing sedan pace car, which means that we will be back to running here on lap 11 of 200 with Robert Malechka the third. In control, Jaden Munoz will be directly behind with Chris Fondanessa, who was second last year in the fix. We're back to green. Malechka with a monster jump.
Of course, in the type of start that Malechka would have wanted up at the front, isn't it? Of course, you've got Munoz and Fondanessa already having a battle for P2 there, but a really good restart there from Robert Malechka, the third, of course, a driver that has won this multiple times. He knows exactly how to restart in a race like this. He knows exactly what to do, and that experience in a race like this will pay dividends as we get underway, as the laps go and go, and of course as drivers start to get worn out, because on a very, very heavy race like this, over time, some drivers will get worn out. They'll get tired. They'll suffer mentally because of how much you've got to be on the limit, and you've always got to be aware. You can't just relax and drive. You've got to be looking in your mirrors every lap. You've got to be looking around you and looking for opportunities. It is a race that costs a lot of mental strength.
It is a race which really forces forward. A bit of side-by-side there in the foreground, a shot as Chad Simpson holds off the 25 champion, the reigning champion Peter Berryman back there. But Jaden Munoz now at the front as they work their way over to 3. Here comes RM3 looking for his third iRacing Indy 500 crown as he jumps on through and says, thank you very much, I'll take the trade and get back into position. So a very nice moment out there in terms of the trade that's gone through. A very clean and effective start, and a little wide there off the back as now here comes Munoz back to make this move at 1. They're trading.
Of course, and these two, very, very experienced drivers. So they kind of know how to play this together. They will work together just to keep trading that first and second if they need to. They're not going to fight and they're not going to hold each other up at this point. It's just about just trying to work your way forward and bringing a gap as high as you can. As there is Jaden Munoz on your screens as he makes his way through and just lets Robert Malechka go past him, and they'll continue trading that first and second spot. And then, of course, also, when they're working together like this and using their slipstream, they can also save together, which helps them as the stint goes on, and of course could allow them to maybe pit a little bit later, or if they go full push now, they can pit earlier. So these two are probably going to be on very similar pitch drop strategies, I'd imagine, but of course they can work together now and just pull the gaps behind. I mean, look at that, already back to P10, it's 3 seconds. So these two just need to keep working together and pulling that gap away, and also they're starting to drop Chris Van Den Essen slightly as well. He's 6/10 back from the top 2.
He very much is. Munoz will have to let Robert Malechka go then at 3 as they work together on this to make it happen early. Now, I want to cast your mind back 12 months ago between those two drivers in this Indy fix. 12 months ago. You look at Robert Malechka the third, he was going for 3 straight Indy 500 crowns by taking a fixed and an open and then trying to get the next fix. And then from the lead of the race, he came together with that driver in front of him, Jaden Munoz. Sim racers have memories like elephants when they've been wrong. They always remember. When they forget something, if they've been in an instant, memories like goldfish.
Oh yeah, certainly. And of course these two are going to have to be careful they don't run into the same issue again. It seems at the moment that they're quite calm, so I don't think there'll be any need for them to make contact here, because so far so good for these two up at the front as we have 15 laps gone here in the Indy 500. And as we know, the first couple of stints, unless there's big cautions, don't really mean much in terms of your position. If you're in the top 5 here at this moment, you can stay there until lap 115. It doesn't matter if you're P5, because anything can happen after that stage. So a lot of it here for those in the top 10 is just about preserving that spot, but then those behind, they do have to push a little bit more, because they know they've only got, for example, 100 laps to get back into that fight, and then they can get involved. If they don't catch up in time, they give themselves a little bit too much work to do. As we have the battle here for 13th, David Toff leads this one ahead of Aman Lal and F-Tink there as well, Birrell, all battling. And of course, this sometimes is where you do get a couple of incidents when you've got a mid-pack battle and everybody's close together. Somebody makes a slight mistake, all the cars behind come barrel rolling into you.
They very much do. The Hungarian colours being shown for David Toth of Caesar Esports as he looks to try and really push for the esports team of the University of Győr out there in Hungary. He will really be pushing with Aman Lal just behind. Logan Edwards is there just in front. And then you've got Rodan F-Tink then, who is looking to try and really get himself jumping up the order in the VOR car. He knows exactly what he needs to do as they are behind the i5G machine of Logan Edwards out there at this point. So they have the understanding of how do we move into this race? How do we gather? How do we get the clearance that we need to get the moves that we want and to jump up? Because it's not just about being at the front. It's about being at the front at the right time. We'll take an onboard look here with Logan Edwards at the moment, currently in that 12th place, and understanding he wants to get some good laps in underneath. He's behind the 6 of Ty Killer and the 21 of Lucas Prada.
Of course, and about 10-ish laps to go, maybe 15 if you're pushing it, until we have that first pit stop. For those that, of course, that didn't pit earlier on under that first caution, I think those 19th and down did. Those above are yet to make their first stop in this race, and of course that's where things do get dicey. Of course, they're all barreling into the pit lane, probably on very similar laps. I'd say you're going to get at least 3 or 4 of them together every time we have a pit, a pit cycle. So that's where issues start to come in, because if a driver makes a mistake on the braking, everybody else gets caught up in behind him. That also can cause issues. So sometimes it's about being a little bit more conservative on the brakes into the pit lane, knowing if you've got a couple of cars ahead that are also going to make a pit stop as well. As that's Esteban Rodriguez and Manuel Sado having a battle for 22nd place, and then also Liam O'Sullivan up the inside of Sado and looks to make that move to go into 23rd. Of course, has got a good run up the inside, but then Sado has a really good run around the outside, has kept that momentum, and Sullivan can't get past there.
No, he can't. Esteban Rodriguez, a driver who was in the INDYCAR Pro Series 2 years ago as a rookie and has been looking to try and keep himself in the forefront of drivers' minds. Liam O'Sullivan then sweeps around the outside. That is a beautiful pass on Manuel Sado, who I think maybe might be looking at playing long game at this moment in time, maybe trying to save a bit of fuel. There's ways that you can do that. You can do the LICO method of lifting and coasting, but also you've got 5 different maps that you can go to, which are there for fuel saving. So you might not be in fuel save mode 1 or strap 1, which is your way to say, I'm going full out. You can dial it back, strap 2, strap 3, try and save a bit more fuel.
Certainly is. Here is Kirkenbauer, of course, started last in this race and is now looking to make a move ahead of Kevin Birrell for 16th, so a very good start for him. And of course, because he was one of those at the back, he decided not to go onto that early pit stop. He decided to carry on with those at the front, and of course just put him in that leading train as this race goes on. 21 laps completed here of 200. So 10 laps time, you'll see most drivers heading into the pits and making their first stop in this race. So, of course, will be interesting to see what those in the top 5, top 6 do. Peter Berryman, a decent start, was P7, now up to P5. And, of course, another driver that those at the front have got to be wary of course, was the winner last year. He's a very, very good driver, very intelligent, and he knows exactly when to make the right moves. I think in this race, it's not just about pace and skill, it's about knowing when to do things, isn't it? A lot about that intelligence of that, you know, racing intelligence, which some drivers have. A lot of others have to take years to develop it.
Robert Mleczka III communicating with Jaden Munoz. I've not got enough to keep tandeming with you at the moment, and we've got about 1 second to Chris van den Esser. This is the look behind of another Dutchman out there, Rodan Eftink, right now in the VOR machine here, the number 30. He's looking behind at 2 very interested parties in Kevin Birrell and Indy Kirkenbauer.
Indeed, of course, part of the Velocity online racing team, VOR, in this one. And a nice view of the cars behind all following him through, and there Kirkenbauer may be looking to make a move ahead of the car behind him.
Got a little bit loose there and would be a little bit cautious about this now. This might open the door for Kevin Birrell into 3, backs out of it there, thought about it, gave the half look over, and we're seeing a lot more of that now in sim racing because we see a lot more of it in the real world. The half look over to say, I could make the move, but I'm going to elect not to find a different place where I can.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about this race. It's not one of those where, in order to back it, you've got to brake and let the car through. You could just lift off slightly. Just take a different line and you can already back yourself out of the move. So you have a lot more time to think about what you want to do here. This is on board with car 100, Indy Kirkenbauer. Part of VRL here in this one, in 17th. Looking to make his way ahead of Kevin Birrell. And you can see on many occasions he's got a good run, but never actually goes for the move, unless he can up the inside. This time he's got a nice line, but no move there. And of course, sometimes, especially when you come in late into a stint or your tyres are getting quite worn, it's not always the wisest option to take that inside. So it just shows at the moment that his tyres are sticking with him quite well. He's able to take a decent momentum on a very tight line into the corner.
He's managing, and I think he's managing quite well, and this is a very clear understanding of where this race is, that there are times where you've got to be aggressive and there's times where you've got to be passive, and this might be one of the times, lap 25 of 200, where you start thinking about being passive out there. Kirkenbauer goes to the inside on the run to 3, this 5/8 of a mile straight, which then leads to the 3/8 of a mile short chute that runs on through. So you've got to be very much set on. Esteban Rodriguez looking behind now. Liam O'Sullivan is trying to put himself in the wheelhouse here with the number 23.
Indeed, and Sullivan's made a couple of moves. He's looking to make one more, and of course has been great on that inside line. Most of his moves have been on the inside. There's a few more drivers are now heading in. Ty Killer is one of them into the pit lane. So yeah, very early. He's now down to pretty much at the back of the field. So 26 laps in, making his first stop. 28 is normally when we start to see the first of those pitting, and then I'd say normally that the median laps around 30 to 33s. Most drivers pit laps, as there is Ty Killer making his way back out to the pit lane, and will continue on after his first stop of the race.
And critically, they've also had a fuel gap out there through the first caution of the race. So that, to me, screams I'm going to go very aggressive on a 6-stop strategy rather than a 5-stop strategy out there, and will once again come out right behind the leaders, Munoz and Malechka the third. For Kyle Klendworth and Brendan Clough, they are 2 laps down, and they've got to fight those 2 laps back, basically, to give themselves the opportunity to go out there and race for it. But for right now, Ty Killer is going to have to hope there's no safety car between now and when these leaders elect to make their stops. They've got the clearance they need, but also, worth noting, that's really good for Chris Van der Nesse, because that is effectively a tow rope he can try and launch himself onto.
Indeed, because as the laps have gone on, he's started to drop off. I mean, at the moment, he's around 1.3 seconds back from Robert Malechka, so it's about 1.7 seconds back from Jaden Munoz in the lead. So realistically, Van der Nesse needs a couple of these cars that have been into the pitch just to join the train and allow him to pull along. And of course, this is another issue that can happen to those near the front, is that you've got, of course, the car that went in Ty Killer. He's looking to try and get past Robert Malechka to unlap himself.
And he'll need to get by, and he'll need a lot of understanding from that group behind whether he can or can't out there at this point. So he'll move into one. There's going to be no clearance, and all they have to make that is the likes of the weight jacker and the onboard tools that they have available, like the anti-roll bars being able to move. That's the only way you can get more turn-in or the car characteristic to go out there and change. But critically, Nathan, as well, they'll be dealing with the fact that that hybrid deployment is going to be there, and that hybrid system adds extra weight, and the weight is on the back of these Dallara IR-18s in this fixed setup. And so this car is going to be a nightmare out there when it comes to the likes of braking safe for pit lane.
Yeah, certainly the drivers are going to have to be careful heading onto the brakes. It'll be a really heavy rear, and of course that can really light up the tyres, so they've got to be careful when heading onto the brakes, and a lot of them will be seeing that and seeing their first pit stop very shortly, 30 laps in. So those that have saved can probably pit around there. Those that have saved a little bit more can maybe wait 3 or 4 laps before going in. So we can see here, of course, Ty Killer that's went into the pit lane earlier on there, making a move ahead of Robert Malechka, or trying to unlap himself, but he's forced to tuck behind. And of course, sometimes moves like that can end in contact. That was a very late move back to the right.
Well, he tried it, but critically, this is where you're seeing the difference. You need to unlap yourself. You need to do it effectively. Robert Malechka said, look, you can't go and lap me like that. I know what I need. I need to stay with Jaden Munoz. If you're going to cause trouble, I need you to sit there basically until I say I'm going to peel off for turn 4. So that, for a driver who is a 2-time champion of the iRacing Indy 500, and the call is in. Jaden Munoz has just said, I am pitting on this lap. He has told everybody what he's going to do. He's going through turn 4 right now. Leader out there is going to make the call, because if you're out there first, you're burning more fuel than anyone else, and he'll be followed in by RM3.
Indeed, and very nice there. Onto the brakes as they make their first pit stop of the race. The only one in, I think there's them and Lichtenberg, the only drivers in the top 10 who have made that pit stop here, 32 laps in. All the others are going to continue on once more. You've got lots of Prada, you've got Aman Lal as well, all in the pit lane, so a few drivers further back as well making pit stops. But only 5 of them have gone in this lap around. Many of them are continuing once again. So a lot of fuel saving, of course. It helped with that safety car helping them fuel safe, but a lot of drivers going on longer and longer. And you can see here, Chris Van der Nesse is currently the net race leader. Let's see when he chooses to go in.
Peter Berryman on screen right now, or we'll be looking just behind him right now. Van der Nesse there for Maniti on screen. Tamas Simon makes the call to dive down into the pits as the likes of Aman Lal leaves pit lane. Lucas Prada, Brendan Lichtenberg, they leave as well. You've got to really slow it up on pit lane here. It's not the easiest in the world to go and get, and there is a difference out there in the style of pit lane that you've got, because it's not the NASCAR style pits where the commitment line is right at the beginning. You've got about 8 to 10 rows of grid of pit stalls before you have to hit the marks, because we've only got 33 playing today.
Of course, you've got a little bit more time to get on the brakes and not to, throw them hard and lock your car up. You can take a little bit longer, get the brakes on nicely, and then, of course, coast your way into the pit lane. So we've got Van der Nessa, Simpson, Berryman, Soria and David Toff all in. So there's quite a few drivers up near the front of the field. The key question is whether they come out compared to the likes of Malechka and Munoz up at the front. So that'll be a key one to keep an eye on. Has it worked going in early, or is it that late pit stop that's worked early on here?
So I've just got notice as we got Daniel Folkingham currently out there at the moment leading this field because he's going to go longer here, lap 34 on his run, a drop for the likes of Brandon Trost. That will mean that he will lose at least a lap, maybe two, as he desperately gets there. Big lock up then from Folkingham in the number one. He's got away with that one there. He doesn't get a speeding penalty, but he put that on the limit.
That looked close, very, very close. Luckily, did stop it just in time as Edwards and Fazaro and Kirkenbauer are all in the pit lane. And we continue on. So Kevin Birrell is the leader of this one, 2.7 seconds ahead of former winner Christian Steele, and Esteban Rodriguez is in third. You'd imagine those will be in soon as well. The top 9 are still to pit in this race. Jed Munoz is our net race leader. And looking at the gaps there, look at that's brought Van der Nessa actually about 2 seconds back. So he hasn't gained from that one lap later pit stop.
So Kevin Birrell will come in, and that will only leave the 8 cars that pitted at the safety car that came out the first caution of the race. So they're expected to have an 8-lap offset now compared to everybody else, and they can see it where the last pit stop lap is lap 9 for Christian Steele. It is marked as, same for John Silver. So they're going to be playing a slightly different game. They will have a lot less to work at going through. So if they can say 2 laps a stint, if this does do exactly what it did in time slot 1, so it's not something that you sit down, Nathan, and say, look, this is going to be the sort of race where, you know, it's not impossible to say it now goes green all the way to the end of this race. They're looking at saving the fuel and cutting a stop out.
Yeah, indeed, which near the end could really help you. You know, it's one of those where sometimes if you're a little bit further down, try something different, you know, go for a different strategy, and maybe later on it can work. It might not, but you've got nothing to lose at that point. And also, considering it's such a long race as well, there is times where if cautions come out or if you can pit a little bit early, you can kind of slowly revert yourself back onto the normal strategy. So that's something else that the drivers can think about. So Munoz and Malechka just trading that lead once more in this race, and then of course the top 8 are going to pit in around 20-ish laps time. So at around lap 60 we should see the top 8 in, and then of course Munoz and those behind will continue on for quite a few more laps. So your top 5 at the moment of those that have pitted, it's Malechka, Munoz, Van der Nessa, Berryman and Chad Simpson, as Simpson makes a move ahead of Berryman and goes up into P12. Chad Simpson, a driver that we haven't spoke about much at the start of this one. He's been there, but he hasn't really done much. He's just cruising on nicely.
Well, just look at the gaps there. They've managed to pull now Munoz and Malechka about 3 seconds over Chris Van der Nessa by using the tyre up early in the stint. So it'll be about gathering it back over the course of the run, I think, for Van der Nessa, who will have to do it on his own out there. So I want to look through those who have come in and made those stops. I just want to put some eyes on the Taylor Mills Racing number 7 of Anna Clemmett, because I think that is the prettiest livery that we've got out there all day long. We've got here the net lead currently that's backing on the bottom of the screen. Christian Steele that's out there on the top right now, but it's a Fear the Deer livery that Anna Clemmett's running at the moment. That's going to be critical, but for the moment, you know you've got the time to work with. You've got about half a lap, so it's half a lap, add it on, add it on, add it on, depending on the stops.
Yeah, certainly, as we do see Christian Steele in the lead. He's got a good second ahead of Esteban Rodriguez, who's also another driver that's been quietly running nicely. Started near the back, but he's slowly working his way towards the front, and of course going a lot longer than many other drivers, hence why he's still up in P2 at the moment. The net race lead, it's Malechka versus Jaden Munoz at the minute. They're currently down in P9 and P10. They've got a nice gap ahead of Chris Van der Nessa, as this is the livery you wanted us to see, Jake, the livery for Anna Clemmett.
Fear the Deer, ladies and gentlemen, out there. She's a big fan of deer out there, and a lot of that livery comes off and shows here with this custom design that is out there and running. Only female driver in the field, and she's going to be really trying to throw what she can at the wall. Hopes that this one is going to stick, and she knows that she was a little bit pessimistic walking into it. She thought, oh, I've qualified 38, 39, it's not going to work for me. Into pit she comes.
Indeed, so she's in, same as Kunzer as well. So those two into the box and making their second pit stop of the race. Of course, they were two of the drivers that went in very early at the start of the race when we had that caution on lap 7 of 200. Here's Esteban Rodriguez for Nexus Esports. P2 at the moment. He's got a nice gap ahead of Matt Taylor and Manuel Sado. Is not too far behind the back of Christian Steele. Gets maybe a couple more tenths here. He could get a bit of slipstream here behind the back of Steele and pull that gap to Matt Taylor even further away. As here is Melechia Munoz fighting for that net race lead once again. Emmanuel Chateau also enters the pit lane from P5, so he's in also for his second stop of the race.
It's very fine work between these two. I don't think there's any intent on it being, we're going to fight really hard for it. They know their job. We'll just try and tandem off of each other and continue to build this gap. So they should jump ahead of Manuel Sudo. They should jump ahead of the likes of those who are trying to get themselves off and going then from the pits and say, look, this is what I'm all about. I'm finding a way of getting myself up through the order. There are no real worries for it. There is the Maniti Racing number 33. 40 years old is Manuel Sudo. He was the team boss at Team RSO back in the day as Steele, Rodriguez and Zwack now make their way down into pit lane for the first time. And he said he's going to have a really good, strong go at it. He loves the effort that both he and Chris Fondanessa have done. And they're running today without a dedicated spotter, which is something that most teams normally have. Maniti don't.
No, so they're going into this a little bit blind. As here is Matt Taylor for I5G. He now takes that lead of the race. Of course, himself and John Silver pitted early on. Everybody else has made, well, all those that were on the leading train, they've made one pit stop, and then all of those that, of course, just all pit early have now made two. Here is Matt Taylor into the pit lane. You'd imagine that John Silver won't be far behind before making his next stop, and he's in straight after, as many others are going to be heading out the pit lane shortly. Of course, Christian Steele is in the pits, Brendan Clough as well, and they're dropping down towards the rear of the field, and then, of course, that then puts Jenny Munoz and Robert Malechko the third back up into the top two spots, and they've now got a nice, comfortable lead ahead of Chris Van der Nessa. And he's in a situation where, the same as Pete Perryman and Chance Simpson, they're that good at the front and their pace is that high. Nobody can seem to catch up to anybody because they're running such similar lap times.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a cycle out there of the pit stop window. So they have gone a whole stint green out there on this run forward, and they'll be looking to try and replicate this again and again and again out there as far as they are going to go. And the fastest lap of the race, well, it's currently with neither of them. Rodan Eftink with a 40.0 down there in 15th position. Currently, quickest driver of any lap out there at this moment in time, which indicates to me there might be some pace later on in the race from the 30.
Indeed, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he's holding back at the minute to then push that pace later on, and that's something as well to kind of consider. We're 45 laps in of a 200-lap race. Many drivers here have got a lot of pace to use. They got a lot of pace that they can give as well, but when you're this early on, sometimes it's not worth pushing that much. You don't need to push that much for those at the start. So give it another 100 laps, and that's when we start to see the lap times probably come down a little bit more than they are now. We might see a couple of 39s potentially from our drivers. Of course, you could see a couple in the low 40s. F-Tinker 40.0. So a lot of drivers are low down in the 40s. Then we did see there Malechka and Munoz change for the lead again. And here is Killer and Soria for P8 and P9.
Well, this has worked really well for Ty Killer, actually, with that early stop. He has really done well and jumped up forward and said, look, I'm going to get there. Soria will be looking around at it. In fact, they were blocking all the way down to the pit entry, trying to cover. And so we've been keeping an eye out on who's been managing what and who's been getting themselves the likes of a black flag out there, potentially, which they'll have to be noting, and why we've seen certain drivers jumping down the order and seeing a lot of time fall away by the wayside. And one of them is Christian Steele, who has been in and now has been stuck for the last 2 laps down in on the lane. So obviously he's found himself with his strategy. It hasn't worked, and speaking of not working, that is straight through the grass. That definitely does not work then if you want to go through turn 2, and it's a lucky save there on the left-hand side for Ty Killer, who will see Aman Lal go by, and now on the outside there goes Logan Edwards.
Wouldn't say it was quite a lucky save, because he actually tapped the barriers at the exit of turn 1. Then, of course, that shot him up onto the grass coming through turn 2, and that really gave some damage now to Tykele. You can see the car's nowhere near what it was like a lap ago. He's under pressure again and could lose a position here to David Toff. And then Eftink and Kirkenbauer won't be that far behind before they can look to make a move. As Killer tries to hang it around the outside and manages just about to keep it there. So the car had damage, it seemed, but now seems to be all right again. So maybe just a bit of scare and a lack of confidence for a couple of corners.
The aero loose there off of one for David Toff would have been a scare for him out there on circuit, and he knows that he can't afford to run with too much of that to deal with, because they're now going to allow Eftink and Kirkenbauer into play here in this group, and they now understand what's needed. Tagging the wall behind by Eftink. This will give Kirkenbauer the chance then on the outside, takes the majority of the run. Thank you very much. That's a freebie into one.
Indeed, it is a nice move there from Kirkenbauer, and of course use that slipstream to his power, as we do see a change at the front again, and up the inside there further back was making a move, and that's Eftink slightly I think into the barriers, or if not just a bit of contact wheel to wheel there.
A big save that you can experience yourself if you go on to iRacing today. Get 30% off a brand new membership. Rodan Eftink sideways going through the middle of turn 2 on contact with Liam O'Sullivan, and is able to save it. Kevin Birrell was able to get by, and Eftink, rightfully so, is going to drive it into the pits with the black and orange mechanical flag for the damage of clattering the wall out of 2.
I mean, that was a scary moment there for Eftink, and I think, yeah, he's going to be in and probably to sort that damage out. That was a big hit there for Rodan Eftink, and of course, very lucky to get away with that, unscathed in terms of not...
Oh, he's scathed?
Well, in terms of not ended up ruining his race, in terms of falling off the track with one wheel missing.
Well, here you go. This is the look. So, car down on the inside. He had to leave the room first and foremost. Oh, and then he takes a half tap there. How he is able to get that back and straightened. That is elite car control by Rodan Eftink. And so for that, he's able to keep this race green at the moment at the 1/4 stage of this race. Munoz and Malechka trading about at the moment, but note Chris Fondanessa there behind. It was 3 seconds coming out of the pits. Now the tyre difference makes itself known. That gap's halved.
He's pushing a little bit more as well, isn't he, here, Chris Fondanessa? 1.5 seconds back. He's only a couple of tenths away from being within a second, maybe a couple more tenths after that, and you're within a nice chunk of slipstream as Munoz takes the race lead once again. Trading here with Robert Malechki. Further back, we do see Kirkenbauer making a move ahead of Ty Killer, who's dropped down another couple of spots in this one. He's into the pit lane. So that's in early. Whether that's for damage or whether that's just for another pit stop in the race, we'll have to wait and see later on. We continue our way through, but a bit of shame then, isn't it, for Ty Killer? Of course, that tap on the barriers, and sometimes all it takes is a little bit of damage, costs you a tenth of lap, and that can sometimes ruin you, kind of take you out that leading train and that leading battle.
A tenth of a second a lap doesn't sound like very much, but it is a lot around this circuit, because you lose the draft very quickly and suddenly 1/10 becomes 1 second before you even know it. So it does make life very difficult for certain drivers out there, but it's about building yourself a margin and saying, look, this is what you've got and this is how you can go and really look to make the play with it. For the moment, though, they continue on their trading game. Out here at the front, the critical fact is Robert Malechka, the third, is holding the control. It's Jaden Munoz who is there in second, and currently in third it's Chris Fondanessa who is chasing all of the way, and they're all playing together very nicely. But at some point here, Nathan, won't be now, and it probably won't be until about, I don't know, lap 180 I'm looking at, they decide at some point they're not going to be nice with sharing their toys. They're going to be mean.
Oh yeah, they certainly will, especially those up at the front battling for the win. Of course, Malechka going for another race win. Munoz trying to get his first. Fondanessa as well, who's been on the podium, looking to try and get a win here as well. So a lot of drivers fighting their first wins, as here is Chris Fondanessa at the moment, 1.2 seconds back from the leader. But crucially, he's only around 9/10 back from Robert Malechka here, so he might get right back into this train and fight for the lead as well with these two. Look at that gap though, back to Peter Berryman. It's now 4 seconds between himself and third place.
He's driving himself into contention here is Chris von der Nesse, and I think it really shows that he wants to be with these three and making sure that their race is going to be one where they leave everybody for toffee out there if this one can stay green the entire way. We've had scares out there over the course of this first 55 laps. One caution to note with at the moment, but they want to get the hard yards done and early. There have been races out there that have been really good, but now you've got to be really set and saying, look, this is where I want to be and this is what I want to do out there. So for the moment, you say Robert Malechka the third, how good is he doing out there at the moment? Well, he's trying to match perfection out there, Nathan, because he knows he's only one Indy 500 victory away from getting to the record of 3 victories in the iRacing Indy 500, a record held by Brandon Traino.
Indeed, and what a record it would be to break. It's a record that's been held for about 4 or 5 years now, so Malechka could try and break that, or at least match it at least, and do a great job of doing that here. As he's P2 at the moment, he's only 6/10 back from Jaden Munoz, so he's still just keeping consistent. These last couple of laps, so we have dropped back slightly behind Jaden Munoz, and of course that's helped as well to bring Chris von der Nesse back into this battle for the top 2. But I think the crucial thing is here, even though they're starting to save a little bit more, they're still gaining on Berryman and those behind, which is key for their race. And in the top 10 now, we're separated by 11 seconds, so it is quite a big gap between those in the top 11. And here is Chad Simpson, has got Tamas Timon behind him, and of course Peter Berryman ahead of him. And there is Tamas Timon with the Hungarian livery, the green, white and red, trying to catch up on the back of Chad Simpson and maybe make a move for the top 5 places.
Can Caesar Esports driver find a way to make that progress here? Chad Simpson, -3 for the day so far. Tamas Simon is net even out there. And the legacy of how Tamas has got himself into this position, he actually came into iRacing and started to be known as a classic specialist in the Lotus 79, moved it over into the more current, up-to-date era of Formula cars, and basically he has made INDYCAR one of his homes. He's always out there, he's always running the special event, and he is a very talented sim racer.
He looks very calm in that car at the minute. There's no real struggles from Simon in the car, so he's happy just to sit where he is at the minute. And of course, if an opportunity comes to make a move, go for it. If not, just stay where you are. He's not under that much pressure from Daniel Falcon and behind him in P7. And I suppose sometimes that's the good thing about this race. When you're at this point where it's a bit of a lull, where there's not much going on in terms of moves and needing to overtake, if you've got good pace, you can use it now. You can just start putting the pace down, being consistent, and just starting to bring those gaps down slightly. And that is what Tamas Simon will be doing at this moment in time, just trying to bring that gap down to Chad Simpson, and hopefully then start to catch up to the back of Peter Berryman. Of course, that will be their main target at the moment, top 4, because they know at the minute third, second and first are a little bit out of reach at the minute.
They know and understand that there are 24 cars currently, or 23 on the lead lap. Ty Killer after his stop is 1 down, and then Kyle Klendworth is 3 laps down, trying to hold this together. These are the last cars on the leading lap right now. Matt Taylor, John Silver and Matthew Zwack. And for the moment, they find themselves about 25, 26 seconds off of Jaden Munoz here. A lap around is currently 40 seconds, so they're about 65% of a lap behind where they need to be as Liam O'Sullivan comes in for his stop.
Of course, and the more that they start to drop back, the more that their issues come through when the leaders eventually might start to catch. And yes, we know that they're about just over half a lap back and there's still how many to go, but they've done 6 laps and lose that much time, as we do see Jaden Munoz in. So he's making his second pit stop of the race, lap 61 in. So he's done a little bit of saving, but he's happy to go earlier than Robert Malechka, so that'll be something to keep an eye on here.
I think he started pushing because that gap came out to about 0.8 of a second there, and Robert Malechka the third went, well, I'm going to stay in the tank for a little bit. I can still keep Chris von der Nesse at bay slightly here in the dirty air, because the hardest second to chase is the final second out there, believe it or not. So that, for Robert Malechka the third, might be a bit of experience. Can I extend this stint? The answer is yes, I can. I can go 1 lap longer, but we both know Chris von der Nesse can go longer than them both.
Indeed, and that could help him over the course of the race. I mean, initially, he didn't on that opening pit stop because he dropped 4 seconds back. But what did it do? It allowed him to push more, allowed him to catch up to the back of those two, and then he brought that gap down to just over a second at some point. So We do see Malechkia in. We've got Prada in as well. So he's making another pit stop in this race. He was down in P10. So he'll drop down a little bit further. But then the key thing here to keep an eye on is the gap between Robert Malechkia III and then, of course, Jaden Munoz, who at the moment is down in 21st place. So we'll see whereabouts these two join together. And then Chris Van Der Nessa, a lap later, he's also in to make another pit stop.
He'll be followed in by Peter Berryman, which will give Chad Simpson a lap lead here at the front of the iRacing Indy 500 fixed setup, and now knows that this is where you're just settling down. You're into the meat and potatoes of this race. Go get yourself in, go grind effectively at this moment and try and give yourself a platform to go and race for the end of this one. Simpson then sees Lucas Prada come back in line. Tamas Simon will use that as a bit of fuel to fire. We'll lunge down the inside at turn 3 and won't have any real worry about that, but it's only when the tyres get their full bit of work and use. You'll now see that Lucas Prada will have the chance to try and think about going back at it. In comes Simpson. Now it's Simon who leads a lap here at Indy over the yard of bricks.
The many drivers are getting their lead lap here. They're having a chance to fight at the front of the field. As Jose Soria as well is also into the pit lane in car number 14. Here is Jose Soria into the pits. Will make his next pit stop in this race. Jose Fazaro as well is also in the pit lane. So a couple more coming in here on lap 64 of 200. So just over a quarter of the way through of the Indy 500 fixed setup race. And of course a big shame for the likes of Rogan Eftink and Christian Still, who are still in the pit lane. So they're pretty much out now in terms of fighting for anything. It's a big shame to see because it's such a short track. If you get caught behind in something and lose 5 or 6 laps, you're completely out of it, aren't you? Because you've got the slipstream working with you as well. You've got to then fight past cars that are trying to lap you and you're trying to unlap them. It's such a difficult position, isn't it?
Teammates in together at the same time. So that is David Toth and Tamas Simon deciding that now is the right time, and they can be very content with the way that this is all setting itself out and in motion. They will also be noting here with Phil that they want this race to be absolutely set in stone, more than jumping in. This will be Daniel Falkingham making his stop then as he jumps down in. Logan Edwards will now take the control. We note that longest on that first stop of those who didn't come in the first safety car period was Kevin Birrell. He's trying to play long game here.
He certainly is. 66 laps gone. He's made his pit stops. He's going to have to go again very shortly. He's got Logan Edwards ahead of him in car 19, who also went a little bit longer than others on those opening stints, as Daniel Falkingham is also in the pit lane, car 39. But the crucial gap there, you can see 7 laps difference between Birrell and Rodriguez. They've got about 10 seconds between them. So just showing how good of a job that Birrell is doing, as this is going to be car 19 in. So Logan Edwards makes another pit stop, so it now gives Kevin Birrell the lead of the race. 35, he didn't pit since lap 35, so he's been going here for a good 32 laps. So give it 3 or 4 more, he'll be in for another pit stop in this race. And then some of those ahead, the likes of Rodriguez and Sado and Klenic, won't be that far behind, you'd imagine.
No, I wouldn't think they're a million miles behind. They're only 5 laps ahead is Kevin Birrell on Anna Klemic, and I think that gap's going to be even less by how aggressive they are being on their stint strats. So this is starting to merge out there at the moment. And Kevin Birrell in the car has got the Sakura Cherry Blossom on his car at the moment. It looks absolutely beautiful at the moment as he hits his marks, gets down in on the brakes. So really didn't go as far or as long as he needs to. Oh, hello, I'm Kyle Clendworth. I'm just going to put myself in the middle of all of this then as they work through and try and find their marks. And Kevin Birrell, he misses his box short.
Oh, and that's going to harm him. That's going to lose him a little bit of time there, Kevin Birrell. I mean, it's not like he's in a position to fight for the win right now, but it's costing that time in the midfield. And, of course, that's sometimes where the gaps are really close in the middle of the pack. So Kevin Birrell will lose time from that mistake in the pit lane. And, of course, around this track, a lot of your mistakes in terms of hitting barriers are normally ones that send you back into the pits and towed. The little mistakes that you end up doing in this race are only those then in the pit lane.
Speaking of which, a drop for Chris Fondenessa. So that's going to drop him out of contention then here in this race. So he was right up there fighting. He's had a drop as well as Brandon Trost in this one. And suddenly it's too clear at the front.
It certainly is. So really great now for Munoz and Malechka. They haven't got Fondenessa behind them, pushing really hard. Here he is at the moment. The Maniti Racing driver, 25th place now, all the way down the field. And what a shame for Chris Fondenessa, who was definitely in that leading battle, I think.
He was up there at the top three. He's now in 25th and 3 laps down. And he knows he needs a modern miracle if he wants to go and get this back. So unlucky out there he is at the moment. And he is going to have to try and gather that one back and say, oh, another chance. Maybe next week it's going to be favourite for me. Esteban Rodriguez currently is your leader as he works himself through the short chute between 1 and 2. And turn 2, you think all 4 corners are the same. They're not. They're slightly different. This circuit doesn't land level flat. It's got a slight tip to turn 3. It's got a slight tip as well over then to turn 1. So those are the corners you look at. Turn 2 is the hardest corner on the circuit.
It is. A big banking through there. And then, of course, it's not that long of a run until turn 3. So you're kind of stuck behind cars at that point. It's very risky to go for a move up the inside of turn 3. So that's another issue. You kind of get stuck behind drivers heading through that opening half of the lap. Your real overtaking opportunities are down to 4 and down to turn 1.
Yeah, so we're going to get a little bit of a look further down the order now at this point and how much you are going to be pushing and trying to say what you can. It's Matthew Zwack that our focus is, the number 2. He's out there normally in our INDYCAR College Series, out there here on iRacing and representing his alma mater, the University of Michigan out there. So he is driving out there, trying to do everything he can for the Wolverines and for himself as well as Clement Pitt. And as well, it's the perfect time to say that the Sim Racing Expo Showdown from Charlotte will be taking place May 24th at 12 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be a really fun showcase of what the college drivers can do.
Certainly will be, and on a big stage as well. It'll be a fun one to watch. That is for sure. As 72 laps have gone here in the Indy 500 fixed setup race, and at the moment, a very calm and collected drive from Robert Malechka III and Jaden Munoz. Who's going to be net third now is Peter Berryman, who's just made a move ahead of Chad Simpson. They are so far back. Without, I mean, I'd imagine there'll be another caution, but without one, you'd imagine here Malechka and Munoz can't lose the top 2 spots here. They'd need something disastrous to happen. But I'd imagine that there will be a caution at some point in the race. And that, of course, will bring that gap back down. As here is Manuel Sano in P2 at the moment for Maniti Racing. Behind the back
of
Esteban Rodriguez.
Oh, I thought for a moment, my heart sunk for a second there, but Manuel is pushing hard, trying to stay with Esteban Rodriguez here, half a second back. Then on the number 60 here that we've got him in at the moment, and they are going to make their calls to jump down into pits and say, this is what I want on my stop, and managing to hit their marks very nicely. Now is the time to just make sure where can you get out, because you're trying to angle it out of the pit box rather than in. You want the quickest way out of your box. It's ever so slightly faster. You're talking a fraction of a second, maybe a tenth.
Certainly, as we do see Matt Taylor in the lead of the race. Car number 13 has got John Silver just behind them, and of course these two were very late on the initial pit stop, so they'll be going a little bit longer than the others, and I'd imagine that they'll be heading in very, very shortly.
So, we've got a lot that has been going about on this. John Silver about to see the place go, if he's not careful, to Robert Malechka and Jaden Munoz, who are just sat there behind thinking, you know what, we want in for it. Matt Taylor currently your leader, but they're about to be a whole pit stop behind here at Indy, which is the cardinal sin, to be out there and understanding that you are well behind the 8 ball at this point. It's free draft as well for RM3 and for Jaden Munoz. They'll take that and say, oh cool, we don't have to push as hard because we're behind. These two haven't yet made their decision to come in and get their stop sorted. No takers from either of them, but they might be forced here to a racing pass out there on circuit. So that could be a little cause for concern right now that Robert Malechka the third for Power Slide Team Hyper, for Jaden Munoz out there in the Burosud competition team car. They might have to do a little bit of work here to get around.
Indeed, and that's going to cause some issues if they're not careful. I'd imagine Silver and Taylor won't fight hard against Malechka and Munoz, there's no point, but they've still got to be careful at this point in the race here when making moves and past some of those drivers that are still going to be running their own race. They're still going to be pushing hard. They're not just going to let you through because they've still got to keep their own momentum when on track. As here is an onboard here of Malechka making his way through, and of course has got Jaden Munoz behind him, and now just one car ahead, being Matt Taylor as John Silver has headed into the pits.
So the number 13 machine, it's lucky for some, number 13. We take the focus here with the two-time Indy 500 winner, Robert Malechka III. Out there, he represents Poland for his heritage. His United States is where he applies himself at the moment, and he knows that behind Jaden Munoz is going to want to really try and find a way to keep this one close and understand that this is not a race that he wants to let get out of hand too quickly. Matt Taylor pulls over to the left-hand side, and that should cycle out the field, Nathan.
Indeed, and it brings our front three back to the actual front three of the race. Of course, once Peter Berryman passes Matt Taylor, which he does so indeed. And of course, the lucky thing here for Berryman is that he's got Simpson there, hasn't he? 2 tenths behind is Simpson, so at least they've got a bit of work together that they can do. And they haven't got to worry about just falling back even further. I'd imagine they won't lose that much time, given that they can work together quite well.
You need a friend out there, and Peter Berryman is one of these drivers that desperately needs a friend in Chad Simpson to start tandeming, to start drafting, to start making a way up the order with. So he'll be looking, if he wants to get back-to-back years of the Indy 500 fix. No driver has won an Indy 500 fix twice, mind you, so that's some history that Malechka and Berryman are both going for. They are looking at Chad Simpson to try and find a way to jump on forward. But we are going to look at split hopping now, because it's not just about this Indy 500, it's each and every single one. We're going to go and look at Caden Diedrich, who's got the lead of the race right now here in 19th split. They're on lap 75, and you ask, why are we here in that 19th split? This is the second highest strength of field, Nathan, and it's the first split, worth noting, where these drivers didn't set a qualifying time. They just wanted to turn up and race.
Indeed, and that's what we love to see, drivers just turning up and saying, right, you know what, let's go for it, let's see what can happen. So it's Caden Diedrich at the front, you've got Zach Range in second, and Fernando Antoli Busquets in third. So 1.7 seconds separates your top three. Then you've got one lonely driver of Bryce Reiner in P4, and then you've got some nice close gaps behind. P5 down to P11, only separated by
cautions.
Oh yeah, there's a caution.
Oh, so they're going to have to stop because they have found an issue out there on circuit. I see Carl Schmidt down in the pit, so I think the 25 there would have been involved in that. So just at the wrong time to jump on over with them. They'd be having a wonderful run, and ultimately they're going to slow. That would have been into turn one with the smoke.
Yeah, so not ideal for those over in split 19. So back here to the top split, and maybe we'll have a look at the replay later on of what happened over in the 19th split. But what I was going to say was very close gaps in the midfield over in that lower down split. So back over here in top split, your gaps 10 seconds between the top five, and notice that Tamas Simon and Jose Soria are doing a very quiet job of just working their way up the field, and Jose Soria is up to P6 at the minute. Yes, I think might have to pit a little bit earlier than the others, but still doing a great job to work his way up the field and sit in a very nice spot.
He's just quietly going about his business here as Jose Soria, and I think in the right conditions he can be a real dark horse in races like these. Started in that 14th place and knows he's got to jump up. Drivers, though, have been making great progress through this pack. Though I look at Aman Lal, started 25th, is 12th, and the two cars that were right on the back, 32nd and 33rd, Nathan, Liam O'Sullivan and Indy Kirkenbauer, 11th and 12th.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, but didn't really keep an eye on O'Sullivan, but I was keeping an eye on Indy Kirkenbauer, who kept going up and up through the field. We'll have a look through at split 19 again, and we'll see what happened.
We will. I think it was a wheel brake that we're hearing out there, that someone's clobbered the wall, seen the wheel go off, and there wasn't really much more that could be said about it. But it is worth noting that we are looking at every single split, and we will be seeing a lot of finishes here to the iRacing Indy 500s that are going on in fix. So as we take a look, this is how they go. Caden Diedrich, Zach Rage, Fernando Anthony Busquets, a driver who is very, very quick out there in the sim. He's there in third. You look around, Bryce Reiner, Jerry Turner, and you look down the order as they just cycle on through with the pit stops that have gone through. So the likes of Jake Mordy, Chris Trepper has stayed out, Justin Rort and Tyler Bowling then have all managed to keep themselves out, as well as Charles Abdul Hayolu there in 11th position, who's looking at the progress. You've got likes of Daniel Giraud and Bertrand Fournier there, who has just fallen out of the top 20 thanks to Aaron Russell. But ultimately, they will know that here at 16th Street and Georgetown Road, they are fighting for the same honour of kissing the bricks and drinking some milk and saying that is everything that they want to. Lap 84, though, here of 200 in top split running, and RM3 still holding the control over Jaden Munoz for the time being. These two have been in A and A1 position all race long, and they would say this is exactly like time slot 1. This is what they've been banking on to get the strategy to work, and in time slot 1, it was that guy, number 3, who was able to get the result, the job done that was necessary.
Of course, and they had heavily laps. I think it was over 190 laps in the race without a caution. And of course, when you're as quick as like Semenechka and Munoz is, that's perfect, because you can run your own race and you can just keep pulling that gap away, which is exactly what they're doing now. But of course, when cautions come into play, that really throws the race up in the air and it stops those at the front from pulling away. So if they had green flag to lap 200, they'll be loving this, because I'd imagine that these two will stay first and second unless they make a slight mistake or they get involved somewhere with a lapped car. Otherwise, they'll be very, very clean running to the end. As here is INDYCAR Series, P12 at the moment, ahead of Logan Edwards and David Toth, who's behind them. Of course, Toth and Simon went in very similar laps, but a very, very, very different scale in the field. Tamas Simon's up in P5, but David Toth down in P14. So big gaps there between the two teammates. And then, of course, INDYCAR Series, very good start himself and Liam O'Sullivan, up many positions, and just on the outskirts of the top 10, Aman Lau takes that P10 spot at the moment in car 25.
It's worth noting that both the Hungarians up a combined 2 places, 1 each for the pair. Driver's eye view then here with Logan Edwards in the number 19. This is exactly the view that you would get out there in sim to try and work with here in these Dallara IR-18 Indy cars out there. And note the screen that is there for protection against the debris, the visor, the halo system that forms the part of it as they work through. And critically, how you have to try and find a way to see around that out there as you're driving.
Indeed, and a lot of the time it kind of just, the halo kind of just phases through your eye line and you kind of ignore it, your eye can cut it out. But of course it's still a bit of a pain sometimes. I mean, I prefer it when there's nothing there at all and I can just look straight through and not have anything in the way, because for me it would just annoy me, because I'd end up knowing it's there and like, oh, I can't help, there's a big back pole in the middle of my screen. And of course when you look at an example here, you can't even see the car ahead of you with the halo.
You can't, so you sort of have to have an understanding where the car is, where you are in terms of the relative, any third-party tools that are there to help you out as you're out there and driving. And so there's a lot that goes in to just driving and driving quick there. And you can see just the face of calm right now for Logan Edwards, just blinking a little heavily there and just trying to get his eyes sorted and situated right now at this moment to say, look, this is what I'm all about and this is where I can find myself running in this race. So we'll probably be looking at, okay, this is going to be a long haul day. How am I going to get myself into position? How am I going to get this one back? And, you know, the response and the reality is the incidents that we've seen with cars have been solo car incidents that haven't resulted in spinning and breaking the plane. That's why we've stayed green for so long. And so this is going to be less cars that you have closer together, the more worries that you are going to be seeing and saying, look, we're going to have to try and find a way to get ourselves as close as we possibly can.
Of course, and looking down in the field, Tamas Simon and Jose Soria, and also I'd probably say Daniel Falking, of course, back up to Chad Simpson and Peter Berryman. They've actually brought that gap down, so you've got a nice train there from P3 then to P7.
We do. And Brendan Hyperstar out there in this field. He is Brendan Lichtenberg. He is out there. He's a wonderful content creator and the only winner of a Creator Series 500. And it has to be said, they're running their second Creator Series 500, so he'll be looking to defend his crown on Thursday night, trying to get that sorted. So Brendan, he's very much in for this, as in comes Robert Malechka then to make his stop, and that's a lot quicker than Jaden Munoz this time round, so roles reversed.
Indeed, and this time, will it work out for Malechka or will it not? We'll have to wait and see. 91 laps gone here in the top splits of the Indy 500. You've got Lichtenberg in, Prada's in as well. Of course, Lucas Prada was on the podium in the fixed setup race last year. He's nowhere near the top three at all in this one, as we make our way into the pit stops with him and another couple others as well making their way in, as we see here Jaden Munoz, our race leader, into the pit lane.
1 lap later, hits the marks, just 60 miles an hour down this pit lane. It feels like an eternity, but you're doing highway speeds out there, technically at 60 miles an hour as you work through. He'll be followed by Peter Berryman in the Apex Academy livery, working himself down then into pits, and he'll have to find the 7th to last box out there to make it work, and so he will know what he's got to do. You've got Robert Malechka the third then still working hard, trying to get into play, and he will note out there as far as this set, this is going to be one where it's all about the hard yards out there that needs to be set off and into play. Brendan Lichtenberg, who is on screen, he's come out just behind Chad Simpson, who is currently your race leader.
Indeed, so we'll see how this can work for him, as Jose Soria is in the pit lane as well from 4th place. So yes, the field now starts to get very mixed up at around the halfway point, because you've got so many drivers on so many different strategies, as here is Brendan Lichtenberg in P19 at the moment, and of course he's behind the race leader, so you'd imagine could just go past him and continue running on. I don't think Simpson's really going to try and keep ahead there. I think he's pretty much letting Lichtenberg through, isn't he? He knows he's on a different strategy. Go for it, mate, carry on up the field.
Yeah, and so he'll be very much focusing here at Team I5G, one of the great legacy teams out there, as in comes Chad Simpson for his stop behind. He'll be followed in by Tamash Samon. So that should set things off in motion for Daniel Folkingham to go and lead the race. But it's very nice to see Brendan Lichtenberg out there, or Brendan Hyperstar as he's known on Twitch, going out there and really showing what it's all about, because it's more than just being out there and driving. Some drivers do it for the love of the content, and you'll see many people up and down the orders streaming their races out there live along with their communities and saying, we're going to have a whole heap of fun with this.
Certainly a great race is the Indy 500, one that everybody loves to get involved with, and certainly one maybe next year I might try and get involved in myself. Never drove this race before, and it looks really, really fun, so I might have to jump in the cockpit, and I'll be down in like split 40, but who cares? It's a bit of fun, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter what split you're in as long as you have fun. That's the main thing about these events, isn't it? Have fun, turn up and enjoy yourself. So it doesn't matter how fast or slow you are. As looking at the gaps now, Electrica's got a car in between Munoz and him.
Yeah, so he knows what he's got to do. On screen right now, the number 1, Daniel Folkingham. Free agency opens on Monday out here for your eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Championship Series, and it starts with the Coca-Cola 160 on May 19th. You can catch that at 8 p.m. Eastern on what will be the dawn of the next new run, and who can stand up on song and say they can be eNASCAR champion. It's going to be an absolute blast to be seeing the racing running out there once again. And I tell you what, eNASCAR, it's one of the oldest series out there in iRacing, and it is one of the most prestigious series out there, with how much effort has been put into that year on year.
Of course, and it's a little bit like this, isn't it? You can have so much close racing in those ovals. You're going at full momentum the whole time, pushing on, and you've got 2-3 wide moves. You've got obviously more of a training NASCAR compared to the INDYCAR and the Indy 500, but it's another great oval racing series, which is sometimes they can actually perform a lot better than some of your road course series, in my opinion. They're really good, some of these, compared to your sports car series and some of your lower down Formula class. I think that, yeah, NASCAR and Indy are really up there, aren't they?
They really are, and you really get to see what skill is needed to be up at the highest level there. It's not just something that is ultimately 100% transferable. You need to work on those skills in order to get there. So there are some positions that have been gained top and tail. There are currently 4 cars to pass for Robert Malechka, the third at the moment, who will be your net leader at this point in time. He's actually got the gap as in comes Daniel Falkingham, who is plus 10 to come and make his stop. So Jaden Munoz here has fallen behind the 8 ball. He's stuck behind Manuel Sudo, and this might be the moment of the race, just before halfway, Nathan, where RM3 has the clearance he's been waiting for.
Certainly, you'd imagine that Edwards, Birrell and Klebic will be in soon. Birrell's in as well, so Malechka goes up to third, as that was also Falkingham coming in. Munoz there as well into fourth. And now 2 more to pit and Robert Malechka, hopefully, lap 100, has that lead. Munoz not far behind. And then, of course, a few other cars in that battle, but then I think it's net third at the moment for Peter Berryman. And then Chad Simpson, Tamas Simon, third, fourth and fifth.
Anna Klemek is saying she's going to pit in, and that's causing RM3 a little bit of trouble because he's trying to get by at the moment. So that's going to be a nightmare. Thought about diving down the inside. It's not going to work. In comes Klemek in the Taylor Mills racing car then to make the stop. The deer fears as that is lane hit out there and sorted, but critically Robert Malechka would have had a bit of concern about there on that stop, and it might give Jaden Munoz something to think about. That last lap took about 600ths of a second out, which isn't much, but it's enough to say you're starting to reverse the polarity of it. 2 seconds adrift.
Certainly is. So as we do see here, Jaden Munoz in third at the minute. Doing a very decent job. Of course, he's lost time a little bit to Robert Malechka, but still is in that net P2 spot, as there's Logan Edwards, our race leader, in the pit, so he'll go in once more. And then lap 99 of 200, it'll be Robert Malechka to take the lead, and that means he'll have the lead on lap 100. So there we are, halfway point through the race, and it's number 3 that has the lead.
RM3 looking for his third iRacing Indy 500 crown. He has one fixed, he has one open, both taken in 2024. He's also looking to be the first man to ever have 2 Indy 500 fixed crowns, and he would be absolutely jumping for joy by the time he gets to the checkered flag if he is able to do that. And as well, I believe, to be one of the first ever drivers to go and get a split 1, split 3, or a time slot 1, time slot 3 victory. That's the equivalent out there, Nathan, of getting an Indy 500 victory on back-to-back days.
Indeed. 2 in 2 potentially for RM3, which would be really great for him, wouldn't it? You know, and it just shows his level and his pace and skill out here in this Indy car, the Dallara IR-18. Very quick driver. And then we can see 1.9 back. Then Manuel Sudo in third at the moment.
Let's take a little look back in time then, ladies and gentlemen, to 2024 and the fixed run that was so critical to set. Robert Malechka III knew and understood that he wanted to make a name for himself, and he needed to do what he needed to do. He got it after a 3-wide pass. He gets it under caution, but on that day he only led 8 laps after starting the race in 6th position. So it's not like what we've seen earlier, and there's a name that we know, Jose Soria, who was caught up in the early instance of that race.
Indeed, and of course you have Peter Berryman up on the podium again, so it was great for him to get himself up into the top 3, and then of course a year later take the win in that very race. So, and you can see there, yeah, he took the win, didn't he, Robert Malechka? A great run, and of course from P6 up to P1, and at least in 8 laps, it's very similar, isn't it, a little bit to what we saw from Berryman, starting third and only led 10 laps in the race.
Well, it just goes to show you it's about timing that effort, and Peter Berryman, who found himself at the front there again, was the likes then of those who really tried to push it. That's how quickly it can find itself into the wall around here, and that was a huge old incident. And then what the time would have been, one of the Team Redline cars would now be Verstappen Sim Racing, running into troubles there and finding the barriers out there in that run. But it's all about making the moves, timing the passes, getting the runs, and saying, look, I'm going to power through. And again, Robert Malechka III from 5th to 4th, to third and to chase down 3 wide for the race lead, down low, and then looking to try and hold that margin. Stayed out, right place, right time, and got the result for his first of 2 on that year. The only man to ever do the double, and that would have been the reason why he won that race.
Of course, and another name we know well, Lucky Kewen, finished P2 in that one too. So he got himself on the podium, and then of course it was Peter Berryman that rounded that one off. And Philip Kraus as well, another great driver in this series, of course, has took a win here and there. He finished up in the top 5. A very, very close contest, but of course it all fell under caution at the checkered flag.
So, 96 laps to go. Manuel Sudo and Matthew Zwack in and making their stops now as we sit into strategy formation for some who are thinking about, okay, what are we going to do? Maybe we take our short stop now and get our position back later on in this race. It's Jaden Munoz has done a really good job, actually, of reeling that gap back in. It was 2 seconds. He would have had to burn a fair bit of fuel to get there, but critically, he gets back to half a second as there is Manuel making his push then down pit lane and looking to get the clearance back out and away again, and saying, look, I want to be a factor in this race, but I'm going to have to do this one late on if I want this one to be the way that I need it to go. Esteban Rodriguez also now making his stop.
And then you'd also imagine, too, with Munoz bringing that gap down so quickly, he's probably burnt a lot of that fuel. So given, you know, he might have to pick a lap or 2 earlier than Mleczka on this, just because he's had to take that risk of, right, if we push early on and try and catch back up to the leader, yes, we might have to pit in a lap, you know, a couple of laps early. We've burnt the fuel a little bit to burn the tyres, but otherwise you sit behind, you're 2 seconds back, and then you kind of just stuck there and you end up gaining nothing.
Well, it's all about finding what you need. Munoz now finds himself in the middle of this and says, look, it's between us 2 at the moment, and that's how it will stay for the time being. We are going to be keeping an eye out on some of these split hops that we are doing over the course of this race as we move into the second half and look around for some of our creators. So catch that one in a moment as there's the clearance on Manuel Sudo. Esteban Rodriguez has come out just in front, so you've got 2 battles interspersed within each other, and that's going to create a little bit of mischief then as they work through 4 and look to get the drive back over towards the yard of bricks once again. And another little scare there from Sudo, who's okay and continues on with his running. Let's go over then to split number 3 out there at this point in time, where it's getting busy here on the restart. Carl Blomqvist in control of the race at the moment, but find your friends out there is going to be the key, because you've got Aaron Brown, who is out there and running at the moment and saying, look, I'm going to have a really nice time of things in the number 4, currently running in 12th place.
Certainly a very, very tight contest here. The top 10 separated by 1.8 seconds here in this one. So really close between all of our drivers. Here is Aaron Brown, car number 4, one of the NASCAR college drivers here in this one. And he's running down in top 12. So he's not far away from the top 10 at all. He's got Jared Schrock and Ike Vega ahead of him. And then, of course, the top 10 is waiting for him, as we did see further ahead, I think, Louis Valentin there going up a spot, so moving up to P6. So lots of changes here in the top half of the field in third split.
Representing Eastern Shore Community College out there, he is someone who is really trying to push himself up through the level. There are some other quick drivers in here, like Javier Soto, for example. Louis Valentin out there is often very quick in a prototype, so keep an eye out on him. For the moment, though, Gonzalo Romero there in second position, as they've only just ticked over lap 100 in their race, so they know they've got a little bit of time left for the end of this one. Romero pulls himself to the inside, and so they're going to be trading about out there at the front, and they have a number of quick guys out there at the moment, including Jason Green down there in 23rd position in the field. It looks like they had a massive incident on lap 1, but 23rd position for Jason Green, who's really handy in a spec racer Ford, as Blomqvist, I think, is having himself a few troubles out there, as Aldrich will be looking to try and close up. Daniel Good then follows on in suit.
Certainly a very tight contest, isn't it, here in split 3. Of course, Romero has that race lead currently ahead of second place.
That's how the field then is going to stack in just a moment's time. We'll get that to you as we take a look at Brickyard Crossing Golf Club then that works through 3 holes, a 3, a 4 and a 4 that find itself in the middle. A circuit, a golf course that has seen the likes of Arnold Palmer and Gary Player win on the PGA Tour there. Gonzalo Romero in control over Carl Blomqvist and Victor Aldrich, with Daniel Good and Louis Valentin 4th and 5th. You got the likes there of Conor Melia and Ivan Pangrazzo 7th and 8th. Ika Vega rounding out your top 10. You've got drivers like Javier Soto, who's lightning quick. Aaron Brown there in P12 trying to work up late. Eric Meetus there along with Oliver Takash there, and as well Shaba Shikash in 20th position ahead, just behind, sorry, of João Guevara. You got Kim Soren-Stroman then, who is there with Luca Hoitzma and Jason Green, last cars, then with Tyler DeBosch a little bit further back. Give a shout out to Evan Dalton. He's a wonderful commentator in the world of Ireland out there. He is really, really fun to see out there. He loves his sim racing. He loves his real world racing, but ultimately he's run into troubles out there. So a shame for Evan. So hi, Evan. How are you doing? I hope you watch this back. But for the moment, it's 89 laps to go here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in top split, and it's a 10-second lead for Robert Malechka III and Jaden Munoz over Peter Berryman and Chad Simpson, which says to me, don't do anything silly. The opportunity will come. Stuck in traffic still, though, with Esteban Rodriguez, who's using the fresh tyres to just stay on the lead lap.
Certainly, and looking a little bit further down as well, you've got Brendan Lichtenberg and Lucas Prada, who have looked to brought that gap down to Daniel Falkenham, who then, those three could probably work together a little bit to try and close upon to Jose Soria, Thomas Shimon, and those ahead. The gaps are starting to slowly really come down in this race, and I suppose that's because of some drivers maybe saving a little bit more than others, but with 88 to go, the gaps are starting to close a little bit more than they were around 20 or 30 laps to go. Of course, our top two is still the same. And here is Lucas Prada on our screens from Czech Republic, P9 at the moment. Did a great job in this one, of course, was third in the fixed race in 2025. So a little bit further away than where he'd like to be, but he knows that he's got the pace, and it's one of those races where if it comes to him, he's one of those that will take that opportunity to move forward.
Well, if he wants the opportunity to say that he is going to be top dog out there, he knows what he has to do. He's a fantastic driver in GT spec for World Sim Racing. He's been out there. He's raced pretty much everything that you can possibly set your mind to as Lucas Prada, and he knows that he could be right up at the very top as one of the best sim racers in the world. I think he's just a couple puzzle pieces away, or maybe a couple years, Nathan, from putting it all together.
Certainly, and that's what it takes normally, doesn't it? A couple of changes here and there, a couple of refinements, and that can really make a difference in your driving skills. I mean, wherever you see Lucas Prada race, he's right at the top. He's a very, very good driver. Just sometimes needs a little bit more work here and there, and certainly will be one of the top dogs.
I wonder if we can go back and get a replay of David Toft, because he's found the wall out of 3. This would have been about 8 laps ago, and he's out of the race. So he's had a big moment on his own, single car incident down into the infield out of 3, and that puts him out of the race. So we've lost another one here, but critically, not enough to get a caution.
No, so it was all on his own, you'd imagine then, if that's the case. But big shame for David Toft, who was having a decent race, was up in the top 15 for the majority of it. And unfortunately, he's out and done in this one. But that's the hard thing about it, isn't it, the Indy 500? If you have one mistake, and you've got to throw back to pit lane, even if you lose 2 or 3 laps, you're out of it. That's like, what, 1.5 minutes, and you're out completely. You've got no chance of getting back in. Well, of course, Toft's 10 laps behind, so he's completely out of even making a position ahead of 24th. It is a big shame in a race like this, because one slight mistake really does harm you, doesn't it? But then sometimes, you know, one slight bit of fortune and it could win you a race. Anything can happen in this one. It's such a spectacular race, because you never know where you're going to finish. If you're P10 now, Aman Lal, you could be up at the front by the end of lap 150. You never know.
Yeah. And so I think we're going to get this one queued up here on just how difficult it was. Bottom of your screen here, David Toft caught in the dirty air here. Does he drop too low, or is he just high? So he's high, caught in the air, catches the wall on the outside of 3, bang, hard into the wall down on the infield section, and lucky he didn't bring that back up. If he brought it back up, it would have been a safety car called for the second caution of the day. Ultimately, it stays as it is, and we remain green with 83 laps to go.
Indeed, a big shame there for David Toft. So he is going to be out of this one. Down now right in the back of the field. So 83 laps to go here. and Robert Malechka is starting to pull that gap away from Jaden Munoz. Now, we do know that Munoz pushed a little bit earlier on, so he's now having to maybe tie save a little bit so he can be on a very similar strategy to Malechka, and he doesn't want to be that far away in terms of an offset, I'd imagine, because, yeah, that gap come down quickly, so we've just got to hope he doesn't end up having to pit too early, as this is Manuel Sodal.
Yeah, there he is. He'll be looking behind, seeing John Silver there and Matt Taylor directly behind. Absolutely brilliant sim racer to go and work with. I had the chance to meet him actually in Switzerland about 7 years ago now at this point. He is a really, really smart individual who knows exactly what a series needs. He knows what a team needs. He knows what the ecosphere of sim racing needs. He is one of the great sim racing minds out there.
Indeed, and that experience in a race like this plays so much into it, doesn't it? Because you know exactly what to do. If you're taken to the track for the first time in the top split, you've got so many unknowns, you don't know what to expect, whereas Manuel Sodal does. He's been here so many times before. He knows what's going to happen in a race like this. As Peter Berryman is in the pit lane, Lucas Pallerin as well, Aman Lal. Many drivers in early on this stint with 81 laps to go.
So, for me, we saw Peter Berryman pitting around Jaden Munoz and co, so that indicates that there is going to be change afoot at this stage of the race. It's still anybody's to play for, but now here comes RM3, who's going to make his call and try and just jam on the binders to say, I can get it slowed up. And believe it or not, we haven't seen anybody really speed on pit lane. I think the only driver we've seen is on the exit, Christian Steele. Everyone else has played this one absolutely perfectly, but it is normally tradition. Somebody gets it wrong onto pit entry here.
Yeah, it happens at least once, doesn't it? I'm sure there's somebody later on with him. It's going to be one of those running near the top, I can guarantee it. There's a couple more pit stops coming through. Our race leader's in, so Munoz now has a 9-second lead ahead of Chad Simpson, who, as I was saying earlier, haven't spoken much about Simpson. He's just doing a great job of running his own race up in the top 5, along with Tamas Simon. Just behind him, of course, Peter Berryman was ahead of those two before he made his pit stop. And Jose Fazaro is in as well as Brendan Lichtenberg. So those two also making their stops. And Robert Malechka, the third, comes out in P9 as Chad Simpson. And he makes his way in for his next pit stop in this race.
I wonder if Munoz is looking at saving here. I wonder if he's found something just sitting back behind, using Pseudo, using Esteban Rodriguez. I think it might give him a couple laps of delta swing that he'll be quite happy with if he can burn it, use it, get himself in close. This is where you start setting it up for the end of the race. If you can get the margin 2 laps over, then compared to RM3, he will hit his marks at 60 miles an hour and say the number 17 car out there is going to be the nearest challenger. And what a team Budosud is. They're so good at turning sim to reality. That's what they want from Jaden Munoz. Tamas Simon will now be on his own, now looking to try and take some control at the front. Lichtenberg and Prada just in front of him. Directly behind him, the group of Lal, O'Sullivan and Falkingham.
Indeed, a nice little group together here in this one, all closed up. And of course, this is sometimes where things get dicey. Multiple different drivers on multiple different strategies. You don't want to get caught up, but a lot of the times it can happen in situations like this. 78 laps to go now, so just over 120 completed in the top split of the Indy 500 here. And Jose Soria just making his way out of the pit lane down to P14. Might drop behind Matthew Zwack as well. So he'll drop yet another position lower, will Jose Soria. And further ahead, I think we did see a move from Esteban Rodriguez, I think. Or it was Manuel Sodal making a pass as well. So a couple of changes near the top 10. And then, of course, those up in the top 5 still yet to make their pit stops. And at the moment, that gap between Malechka and Munoz, a lot smaller than it has been for a majority of the race. 2/10 between those two.
Well, how about nothing? Because there goes Jaden Munoz, who will get the pass. And so RM3 and Munoz are together once more as Tamas Simon comes in. Jose Fazaro came out of the pits, came straight back into the pits and has retired the car. So that's another retiree in this race. He might have got something on pit exit, be it extending out a little bit too far and getting something on pit exit. But Jose Fazaro, another retirement then out of this race. There's Robert Malechka III, your net leader with Jaden Munoz, and they both know that the chase is very much on. Tamas Simon in. Daniel Falkingham now is going to be your leader, as here comes the switchback once again for the trade as they move themselves into the left of one.
Indeed, working well together are the top two, but of course, once you get to around 50, maybe 40 to go, that's when they've got to start planning strategically where they want to be. Of course, they'll have another pit stop to do, and then it'll be fight to the finish as Daniel Falkingham is in the pit lane. So our race leader in. Of course, he'll drop down the field anyway, he'll still be at the bottom half of the top 10. But of course, Melechka and Munoz have got to start thinking shortly about, well, where do they want to be on the final spot, on the final stops? Do they want to be in a position where they're pitting earlier than the other? Do they want to be pitting later? Do they want to take new tyres earlier or later? That's what they've got to start thinking about now, because it isn't that long realistically until that comes around. I mean, it's like, it's only a very short lap. It's not like they're going around 2 minutes a lap. It's only 40-second laps here, so very quickly the next 20 or 30 laps will come by.
And they will know that in those next 20 to 30 laps, they're going to be looking at trying to execute their strategy that's going to get the rest of the race all run and sorted. They will note how important it's going to be as every group lines up. Sudo here in 8th, John Silver in 9th, a bit of side-by-side as Matt Taylor and Tamas Simon will trade for positions. Now you've got cars which are on cycle, cars which are off cycle, and it's all just a case of trying to work out who are you actually racing against, who's your main driver, because in long green flag laps like this, it is so easy to just switch off for 5 to 10 laps, and suddenly you realise, hang on a minute, who am I actually fighting with again out there, as it's very close almost for contact between John Silver and Tamas Simon.
That was close indeed, and I think there was nearer the tiniest bit of contact there between the two. As Simon's trying to get ahead of John Silver here, of course, on two different strategies. And Simon up the inside makes the move. Soria as well, looking to join Simon up the inside and make that move. That's close to contact, and Silver just keeps ahead of Soria for now. Soria just has to drop him behind and look for the opportunity.
That was close. Jose Soria getting a bit of a wake-up call there from John Silver. He pushes right across over to him to say, "Nuh-uh, don't do that with me, sunshine." And so that puts a message then back across to say, if you're going to tag off of 4, you're going to move back down the circuit. We're not in the realm where you do that just yet. You want to start throwing blocks, do that in the final 30 laps. Not now with 73.
Indeed, so you do see there Kevin Birrell in the pit lane from P2. And then, of course, once Logan Edwards comes in, then it will be Munoz and Melechka to take the lead again and be that top two. Then such a big gap back to Peter Berryman. But then you've got about, what, 7 cars all within a couple of seconds. So lots of really close gaps behind. And I think Munoz and Melechka will be very happy that they've got that top two there, because they know how hard of a job it would be stuck in a field of around 8 cars.
I've just heard the most fantastic exchange between Logan Edwards and Kyle Klendworth, who's directly in front. Kyle's just gone on the radio to say, am I hurting or am I helping you? Let me know what's going on here. Should I move over or not? And it was just a one-word reply from Logan Edwards, stay.
Well, straight to the point, so I can't blame him. If he wants you to do something, just say it, one word, done. You know what the plan is then.
You absolutely do, and he knows, this Logan Edwards, that it helps, it saves him fuel, and he needs to go as long as he can in terms of trying to get this one to go. There is Edwards. He's now got to clear Kyle Klendworth because Jaden Munoz has joined up on the scene here, and he finds himself immediately into play. He's about 1 stop back now as far as it sits, so Klendworth has to let that go. And Logan Edwards knows, I've used that for as long as I possibly can. But now it's these 3 at the front. Team I5G currently leading this race, but there's Burusud, there is Powerslide Team Hype just behind, and they know that those top 3 are how it stands. But Logan Edwards trying to extend this as long as he dares.
Indeed, and further back there, Lichtenberg making a move ahead of Matthews Wack, so up to P13 now for kart number 18. In this training is only around 3 seconds back from P8, so still big opportunities for those outside the top 10 to jump into it. As here is Logan Edwards, of course, a decent qualifying P12. He'll drop a little bit further down than that, of course, once he goes in, which is what he's going to do now. That gives Munoz the lead, and Robert Melechka, the third, goes into P2, and then Peter Berryman, eventually when he comes round, will jump into 3rd place.
A lot of fishtailing there, trying to get onto pit lane, so Logan Edwards was really pushing to try and get anything he could there. But Peter Berryman, 11 seconds back now, and knowing he's got to work with that group, with Rodriguez, with Simpson, with Simon, with Soria, who's there, Falkingham's in that same group too. those 7 really need to start waking up and working together here if they can. Try and find a way to pull this back. But I think they've let the group go out too long. It's almost like watching cycling out there. You see a 2, 3, 4 cyclist breakaway, get up and get 5, 6, 7 minutes out there overall. It creates an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it certainly does. And 68 to go, this is where things get a little bit dicey for drivers. Of course, in that mid-pack, all it takes is one driver, the likes of Rodriguez, to go round. You've only got, what, is that 10 cars behind him within 3, 4 seconds. They get caught up into that, you've got a massive polyp, and then you've got a caution.
Right, let's go and take a split hop here with 68 laps to go. We're going to go down to 8th split out there at the moment, where it is a very busy field out there at this point as we get ourselves through. They're back to green here with 94 laps to go, so they've had a lot of cautions to try and work through. Drivers like Anish Mehta, for example, has been found in trouble, someone who's big out there in the F1 community out there on iRacing. You've got AJ Green, Ben Bennyworth in there, Andrew Hennessy fighting with John Thompson Jr. as well. And in 11th, Rents Brown out there, Rents the Fence out there giving a good run, who used to be a radio colleague out there with our good friend Cisco Scaramuta, who's been producing for us here today, out there as our main director here on the show in iRacing. It's lovely to see how this is a full circle world, and there's so many great drivers in there who have proven over the years in the many series that they've run that this is going to be all about you join together, you give it a good race.
Certainly, down in 8th split and really close gaps, and I wish we had some of these gaps down over in top split. Some really, really close racing here. Of course, Chris Townsend has the lead, and yet again, it's only, what, 5 seconds back to 12.
There's Rents, bottom right of your screen right now. We'll get an advert while, don't we, as we get things all set. But for the moment, it's going to be about who can manage out there and say, look, we're just coming off of this restart. We want to get ourselves into position. You've got Dylan Bittman, who is in there and is doing a very good job. He's normally running out there for one of the German-based teams. I think he runs for Mono Competition out there, so he does very well. Ben Bennyworth over at Quad Dash. But as you set yourself up, this has been a field that is looking to try and show what it's all about. It's a Kiwi, though, on top in Chris Townsend with John Thompson Jr. and Andrew Hennessy, your top 3. David Gomez in 4th with Ben Bennyworth and AJ Green, Brandon Devine and Tato Montes, 7th and 8th. And there's the top 10. There's Rents in 11th. You've got drivers there like Matthias Heinzelmann there in 13th. Kingsley Nwoko in P16, but you look down the list there, Claudio Castamitiana there in 18th, and Juan Llorente then rounding out your top 20, but you get a lot of drivers a lap down or retirees out there in 8th split, including Anish Mehta, Ilya Ignatov also finding troubles, as well as Fabio Lamel, Luke Hearn, Xavier Diaz and Richard Swavely then finding their issues early on in split 8. But as far as we are sitting here, there are 20 cars on the leading lap. There are 23 cars running here in top split with 64 laps to go. We're gearing up towards the end of this race, and the fact that this has run so much on a long green flag run, they've had practice of what this is out there on the Saturday, on the Friday night, sorry. So here on Saturday, those who have run it know what to expect. But the big key is going to be right now, the fatigue level. That fatigue level, I think, is going to be here, Nathan, the biggest difference to whether you can or can't.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's something the drivers have got to keep an eye on. The race goes on, and it's, remember, 4 corners, very, very similar in the way they're designed and the way they run. So you're just going around constantly, and eventually that will play on your mind. It's a lot of doing the same thing over and over again, and what we'll say, insanity is caused by doing the same thing over and over again and getting no different results. For many drivers, that is happening right now on track. They're just sitting where they are, running along, and towards the end it will be tiring for the drivers mentally in this race. And of course, those that are getting tired, sometimes you make misjudgments in your strategies, or you do things you probably shouldn't do, and you get annoyed. Stuff like that plays in as well. Your emotions, that's something that you've got to keep in check when you head into the final quarter of the race.
Yeah, that final quarter of the race, I think, is going to play a really important factor, because now you're going to be starting to go to the in-car tools. If you're playing this bingo and wondering what we're going to be saying, you're now going to be in on it, because the in-car tools, the anti-roll bar, the weight jacker, they are critical out there as far as they look to go and set themselves up towards the run to home. As Sudo and Soria right now, 1 lap difference between them, trying to hold their station. We are here until this is done. So it's not just this Indy 500. We're going to watch as many finishes as we can, getting from here to the end of the race, Nathan, and that's what we call super cool. It's like NFL Red Zone.
Indeed, it's split after split after split. Of course, this will be one of the ones that actually finishes quite early, I think. One caution right at the start. It's been clean running ever since. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say we won't get another caution, because I'd imagine we'll do at some point. But if not, we'll be one of the earliest splits to finish, which means then we can look through to all the other splits, 38 in total, which means, Jake, if this finishes early on, a lot of drivers are going to get a lot of time on the screen, because we're going to look through so many splits as this one goes on. 38 in total. I'm not going to do the maths, but that's a lot of drivers.
Well, 38 times 33 is what you'd be looking at over to the end of running, and this has been a quick race. We're not even 2 hours through this one at the moment, and we're already talking about the final quarter of this race. So 33 times 38, that's roughly 1,254 drivers. I saw 1,200 drivers signed up, so that shows you how many people have been investing their time, their effort, their dedication into running here at the virtual Brickyard to have a taste of success that only 38 drivers basically today are going to be hitting. But let's turn up the noise, because this is your chance to hear for what is this Dallara IR-18 out there, and to hear just how amazing it is. Let's get you in and sorted, because let's go iRacing full throttle. .55 laps to go at the world's greatest race circuit in the world, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This one has flown by here with us on iRacing, and we note that this has been a case of two. Liam O'Sullivan making his stop. It's Jaden Munoz and Robert Malechka the third. They're 11 seconds down the road from Peter Berryman, but you put it into this scenario, Nathan, it is as simple as this. It's 1v1 at the moment. It's hand-to-hand combat. It's mano a mano.
Indeed, 54 laps to go. Give it 20 laps and that's when things get dicey between the top two. Unless there's a caution, third and below aren't going to catch up, I don't think. I really don't think they have a chance. But of course, behind third place, you've got about 5 or 6 cars together, only with a couple of seconds apart. I mean, that is the type of situation where with 30 and 40 laps to go, you're going to cause a caution. So the top two, Munoz and Malechka, know they have an advantage, but it's one of those where in the back of their mind, they're always thinking, well, a caution could go out at any second of this race. And that then brings everybody back into the train, and no matter how quick these two are, you've got Berryman who's there behind, Simpson, Simon, who've all had really good pace in this race so far.
And it's about contingency. It's contingency of when it comes out, because there's a difference between a safety car coming out with 50 laps to go compared to if it comes out on 38 laps to go, for example. The timing of a safety car means a lot more if you get it or if you don't.
Certainly, yeah, definitely. It's one of those where if you're up at the front, it could help you heavily, but if you just pitted, it can really harm you. It's such a weird one, a safety car. It's a God's gift, or it's just the worst thing that can ever happen to you in a race. So you've got to wait and see what happens, and that's why it's always a gamble when it comes to safety cars, as Peter Berryman goes into the pit lane in 8th place. So he'll drop down the field, and then, of course, once everybody else who was around him goes in, he should jump back up to third quite comfortably. But given the fact that the gaps are quite close, this time there might not be a guarantee that he'll keep third. Maybe Chad Simpson or Tamas Simon could do something to claim that from him. But at the moment, the top three looks very comfortable all race long.
He's definitely eyeing up here a pit stop with 22, 23 laps to go. So I think he sets himself up quite well at the moment with what he's eyeing up. So I would say he's very happy with the way that he's going about his business. He's been a perennial podium finisher, but you don't get anything for being on the podium. Jose Soria now making the call to jump down into the lane, and this is Matt Taylor on the back of Tamas Simon. He's trying to get the clearance back through to go and gain lap back as and when it happens. So he's got fresh tyres he's going to go and work with. We'll look a little bit further back down the pack then as far as they are battling, because this is the run up then into turn 3 that they set with at the moment. This is Edwards and Soria who are on this train and looking to try and say, look, I'm going to be someone who goes through, or sorry, O'Sullivan and Zwack that are there at the moment. So they are going to be looking at trying to push, but they're down there right now, 17th, 18th place. They are 1 lap down. They have missed the boat.
Yeah, they have, and it's a shame when you put yourself in that situation where now it's going to be such a gain for them to get back onto the lead lap. With 50 laps to go, they need some sort of caution or some incidents to go their way, as Chad Simpson and Brendan Lichtenberg are in as well, so they've made a pit stop. And then, of course, if you do want to get behind the wheel and take on the challenge here in some of our special events, visit iRacing.com/special events and you can see the schedule. A lot of races to go. Of course, the second half of the year, Jake, we've got so many events and over so many different types of racing as well. There's always something that you can, that'll tickle your fancy and you can get involved in.
Yeah, there absolutely is, and more importantly than that, you have the chance, if you missed the iRacing Indy fix, you realise you wanted to get in on it, you got the Open in 7 days' time that you can get yourself back into. Perfect opportunity to go through. Jaden Munoz then, pitting with exactly 50 laps to go. I wouldn't be shocked to see him come in with 20 to go, and following immediately a lap after then is Robert Malechka the third. So there was a 2-lap advantage then that was earlier on. Malechka's been pretty even for it. A bit of side-by-side there behind as O'Sullivan and Sudo go at it, but you got drivers here like Daniel Falkingham trying to keep himself steady and in play, and he knows that he currently now takes race lead out there with Clemic and co. You are now trying to count back. Can anyone get back to about 30 laps to go? I'm not sure they can.
It's going to be difficult. I mean, the top two here, so Malechka and Munoz, I should say, those who are the net top two, of course, they'll have to pit once more in this race. You'd imagine at around lap with 28 to go. No, be about 18 to go actually. Might be about 20 to go for them. They'll have about 20 laps of just push, and hopefully for them to have a great battle to the line. Of course, cautions come into play. Then luckily there's still only one pit stop left anyway. It's not like they've got to change everything up and they've got to prepare for 2 or 3 stops. It will still be quite straightforward in that sense, but they've got to hope if a caution comes out, it's within the next, well, it's after the next 15 laps. If it's before then, things get a little bit difficult.
1.6 now the gap. Anna Klemic jumps into pit lane and takes service. This is getting very, very close in terms of this. Jaden Munoz trying to break away. That undercut has certainly helped, but expect RM3 to try and reel this back as far as it goes. Berryman has come out behind Chad Simpson then, so it's not quite worked out the way that it's wanted to, but look how busy this train is, all of different strategies at the moment. You've got Silva, Rodriguez, Taylor, Lichtenberg, Prada, Soria, Aman Lal is there, Carl Clenworth. They're all there. They've all got different styles of races at the moment, but it's all in the same mixing pot. They've found themselves out there at the moment, and this is your train that sits. We've got no movement in it at the moment. They understand they are all in this one trying to get to the end of the race. It's as much a collaborative effort as it is a solo work right now. They know they're trying to keep their races together as in comes Daniel Folkingham, which gives Jaden Munoz now the lead of this race with 46 laps to go.
Indeed, and a nice view of the train. 6 cars all involved in this one, and they're all catching each other up as they make their way into turn number 1 and up the inside as well. And that was close to contact there. That view really shows how close up these drivers get when they're making moves, or at least just sticking behind each other. So close here as they make their way back up towards 3 and 4.
Oh, this is for 13th place, mind you. Lucas Prada starting to get a little bit chippy about it in the World Sim Racing Dallara IR-18. Jose Soria wants to find his way through, and he knows that that number 14 car, which started 14th, that is in 14th place, doesn't want to stay in 14th for the whole run. So how do you go and get this pass sorted? Where do you find the opportunity? And you're really seeing different lines being taken. It's to get out of the dirty air. It's to give yourself a drive off the exit.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see here behind Lucas Prada, Jose Soria, who's actually dropped down quite far. Was up in the top 10 earlier. Things at the moment just haven't quite gone his way. I mean, there's still a couple of cars ahead of him that have to pit. But yeah, down in 14th here is Jose Soria. Lucas Prada ahead of him has done a decent job in this race, as we have got some more close battles ahead. I think this is going to be the train with Munoz stuck in the back of it, isn't it?
Well, you're looking here at the back, there's Brendan Lichtenberg there, and this is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all together on the road, all trying to figure out where are we going to be, what are we going to do, how are we going to find this, and how clever are we going to have to be late on to go and get this result. So I think they're trying to eye this up and say, where do you go? Taylor pulls out of the line then and says, look, I'm on a different strat. Brendan, I'll give you a go here right now. And can Brendan, Hyperstar, as he's known, Brendan Lichtenberg, get himself up the order? Say, look, I can get a little bit better than 11th. He's eyeing up Esteban Rodriguez, the pro driver out there to move on into the top 10. He'll get the clearance, set phases to pass, and he gets it.
Nice move there from Brendan Lichtenberg, who's had a decent race so far. Back up into the top 10 now. Of course, has got John Silver ahead of him, who's on a different strategy to many of the others. The same for Kevin Burrell up in P3. You'd imagine here there's still a couple of positions that Brendan Lichtenberg or Brendan Hyperstar can gain, as Robert Manechka takes the lead of the race, goes ahead of Jaden Munoz. And the first race lead change we've seen quite a bit in this one. So yeah, it's Manechka up into the lead, and then of course looking further down, Chad Simpson and Peter Berryman are only a couple of tenths apart for net third.
True, so they're looking at thinking what they can do. Kevin Birrell and Logan Edwards, though, if they continue on for another 7 laps, I'd say they're there on merit, who have been trying to save their fuel strategy. So if those two right now keep themselves in play, as there's the leaders of Munoz and Malechka, and you can say it here, we're into that range now. We're starting to talk about final pit stops. If they can last this another 5 to 6 laps, they are in the wheelhouse, Birrell and Edwards, for a 3rd or a 4th place here in the iRacing Indy 500, providing that this one stays green to the end.
Yeah, certainly. And you can just see, pit window, it's 28 to 37 from minimum to maximum. Of course, most drivers are on that medium. So I'd say around lap 180, so in around 20 laps time, you'd imagine that most will be in. Some of them might go in really late and just go for a really big push to the end. Some might go early and just look to see the race out longer and go for it on that longevity. As here is Munoz taking the race lead once again away from RM3, and then Kevin Burrell behind us in the picture goes into the pit lane, and he will make another pit stop in this race. So you'll see there Chad Simpson and Peter Berryman and Tamas Simon move up a place, and then of course Woods Logan Edwards goes in, then Simpson will be onto that third spot. So this is a big train now.
He's 4 laps short, I think, is Kevin Birrell for what he wants, so he knows he'll drop back late and he'll be one of the last takers into the lane should it stay green the entire time. Soria has been stuck behind Prada, and Prada's been doing a really good job of holding the coattail of Matt Taylor here to say, look, I'm not going to get much more than this. I'm just going to push and see what's going to come about of it. This has been a wonderful scrap down in the mid-pack right now, and they are understanding that late on in this race, they are going to start getting a little bit more dicey than what they are now. They are showing that they want to hold some places here, but this is heading up towards that final stint of the race, which I think opens in 2 laps' time, when drivers will be starting to think about electing for a final stop here and there.
Indeed, 39 laps to go. It's getting dicey, of course. Manetka and Munoz in the lead of the race, 2 tenths apart, less than that. And this is where the position comes into where they're training constantly for that leading spot. As that, I think, is going to be Lucas Prada making the move, or trying to make the move ahead of Jose Soria. He's now on the outside as he makes his way through the long left-hander, heading down towards turn 1. And Prada, I think, might have the bit of a run on the outside. He does have the run and does get the move.
It's very smart. Soria went to the inside, had almost full clearance and still couldn't quite get it done. Just getting buffeted about off of the main line of Taylor Rodriguez. Couldn't quite siphon off a toe that he really wanted. And so that creates a drama. Race on for 4th then between Simpson and Berryman. The race that is very much on for 12th down on the bottom of your screen. And with 37 to go, Logan Edwards pits. And that's going to be the first real stop that we're going to be seeing, and saying he is going to have to save like the clappers here to try and get a podium.
Certainly, as it is a really big race now for all the positions in, but obviously got 1st and 2nd, but then all the positions below. Still lots to decide here in this one. 37 to go, and then once these drivers go for their final pit stop, that's when they don't really focus on having to save anything. It'll just be push, push and push. So the lap times will be really, really, really quick gets into the final laps.
So he now looks and says, I had a 7-second margin when I came in and made my stop. How much do I need to be looking at my fuel maps and the pace I need to be running? He will have the leaders go by him, and Kevin Birrell, who pitted just with him out there. So that's going to be a critical piece of help. He's got 3 cars in the train in front of him, and he knows he has got to go work and make sure that he is saving on the back of the train as much as possible. Jaden Munoz has given himself the right position. These two came together a year ago in this fixed race. Now they're fighting for the win.
Indeed they are. So close here. 35 to go. Of course, yes, they have to pit stop once more, but for now it's just about staying where they are and just trying to, one, keep pulling that gap away from Simpson and Berryman, just in case a couple of things go wrong for them, but also they don't want to get themselves into contact now. If they're going to make contact, at least do it on the final couple of laps when they're actually battling for something that means something. Right now, it doesn't really matter if they're in 1st or 2nd because they're so close together anyway. There's not much that separates them on the track, as we'll have 34 to go this time round. And then, of course, another key battle is to watch the battle for 3rd, because they're less than 7 tenths apart, are Simpson, Berryman and Simon. So battle for 1st and 2nd, battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, and then even further behind you've got P8 then to P13, are only a couple of seconds apart.
And don't count Logan Edwards out of that race for third. How he decides to go for it might be determinant of this. So they can look at each other here. Can Simpson, can Berryman, can Simon. And they know that they might be in a little bit of trouble if they're not too careful. They have to be very, very switched on to what this race is for them. Understand that it's not just about themselves right now. There are others out there who are completely off the radar that they are still having to negotiate through. If this does end up being a 190 lap green flag run, and it could be one where it's the green flag for you to jump up onto iRacing, because a new member can get 30% off of any brand new membership. You can go to iRacing.com/membership to get yourself involved.
Certainly, and hopefully maybe get yourself involved next week in the Indy 500 Open race, which will be a great one to be involved in for sure. And of course we can see there our next special event, it will be the open setup of the Indy 500. So of course just the different version of this. This is the fixed setup where you can barely change anything apart from your onboard tools and of course your weight jacket. Whereas in the open setup, you can change everything you need to do and, of course, make adjustments in the pit stops when you need to. So, of course, a little bit different to what we see in this one. And sometimes, that you know, of course, when you have that different setup, that's where you see drivers in different teams, in bigger teams, tend to lurk a little bit more to the front of the field, whereas in this one, they might not do so.
Yes, and so there's so many different styles of the way a race can go. It can be very caution-filled, and this one can be very, very clean, so it creates a much different way this race has gone, and a lot of the incidents we've seen could have gone a different way, and this could have been a much different race where we had 4, 5, 6 cautions potentially. In this one, we've only had the one, and so we're setting up. This is now pretty much your go marker here as we're heading at 31 or 30 and a half now laps to go here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is where you're really setting up. Esteban Rodriguez makes his final stop for home then, and how much fuel you need to put in as well is going to make a huge difference, because that's the difference between 2 or 3 seconds being in the draft or out.
Of course, and one thing to notice now, so 31 laps to go, everybody here who makes a pit stop will be on their final stop unless they go for something different, but you'll easily be able to get to the end with some saving, of course, from lap 30, so lap 170 onwards, 30 to go now in this race. So everybody who pits will be on their final stop and will then be able to, hopefully for themselves, push to the end of the race. So I'd imagine the top two, just because they want to do a little bit more pushing, they might want to go a little bit later than others who just want to get in and then get to the end. John Silver in with 30 to go, so he's made another pit stop in this one. And of course he was one of those that was out of sync heavily earlier on. So of course he's going to drop back a little bit more than others. And then I think still to notice is the likes of Kirkenbauer and O'Sullivan, who are on the back row of the field, and P12 and P14 are in that train with everybody else.
They've done a great job. They will know that it's a long shot, John Silver, out there at the moment as he tries to put himself together on the run. But for the moment, Robert Milechka the third, who's got the tyre advantage here, has himself with a 0.4 of a second. So Munoz, I think, is sitting back and saying, well, I can just save here in this place. Robert Milechka can go out there. He's got to push and he's got to hit a mark. So they've got time to play with. I wonder, though, if it does come down to these two, at what point do they play chicken? Because we've seen it before in Indy 500s where drivers have played with different tools available, and gaps like 13, 14 seconds can come down at a rate of 2 or 3 seconds a lap if you don't want to push for it.
Yeah, certainly. That's one thing they've got to be careful of here, playing silly games. They do that, and it brings everybody else in behind back into contention. I'd imagine these two won't do that, but you never know. You never know what to expect when these two are fighting for the win. Of course, Milechka going for his third, and Jedi Munoz going for his first here in the Indy 500. So lots to keep an eye on here, and 2 big races, well, 2 potential winners here to, well, in terms of the 2 big winners to crown here. This one is Prada, Soria and Kirkenbauer are in, so their final pit stops of this race, 28 to go. So you'd imagine there from this point, they don't need to save. They can push to the end here.
They are very much in go mode now, and it's just a question of how much of a go mode are they going to be saddled up with here in the final stages. They are going to have to be reliant on a number of different factors. They have driven so admirably over the course of this. They've given each other respect over this race. They haven't been out there and throwing their ego about left and right here, Nathan. This has been, for an iRacing Indy 500, one of the best Indy 500s we have seen. And I note for third and fourth, Chad Simpson going all the way to the inside of the circuit. That's my first sign of a serpentine.
Definitely, and yeah, it's been a really good, respectful race from the drivers here. They've all been clean together. We've had a couple of little bits of contact, a couple of drivers ruining their races on their own. But for the majority of the race, it's been really clean, as Chad Simpson is in. So he'll drop down the field, of course, from third. He'll have 26 on this stint to go. And you can start to see now more and more drivers are starting to make their final pit stops. Of course, the two to keep an eye on is Robert Malechka, the third, and Jaden Munoz, our top two in this race. And then, of course, you've got Berryman, Simon and Chad Simpson, who are all fighting for that final place on the podium. Of course, Berryman was the winner here last year. Of course, it was under caution, but he was the winner. And, of course, he could be looking to take a podium here this time as well.
A critical 0.4 of a second for Robert Malechka, the third, grabbing the draft there of Ty Killer, who sits at now 2 laps down in this race. Started 16th, now 21st. So that makes a big difference, as the likes then of Peter Berryman sees Brendan Lichtenberg now go by. Jaden Munoz now begins to claw that back in, gets the gap to 6 or 7 tenths of a second out there, and tries to now make the pull to say, I can get on back through. And every 10th now in a race like this matters so much.
Certainly, every single thing matters, as there is Jaden Munoz on our screens on the bottom right, focused in his cockpit, as we have a battle between two drivers, 24 laps to go. They still need to pit, and that looks like a bit of a hit into the barriers.
He's got to be careful catching safer barrier out of 2. It's the first time in a while he's found himself close. That's a warning shot for Jaden Munoz, and he doesn't even blink, he doesn't even flinch at it, but it drops him now outside of 1.1 seconds, and he's got to note that.
And that's not the sort of mistake that we see Munoz making. We can see him shaking his head, doesn't look happy at all. It's not the sort of mistake that we've seen him make at all race. So that's a bit of a surprising one as well, all on his own. So that's certainly going to cost him some time, and maybe a bit of confidence as well if he's going to start being prone to some of those hits into the barriers and some of those key mistakes. But that gap to him between himself and Malechka is now up to 1.2 seconds as Brendan Lichtenberg is in. So he makes his final pit stop of the race.
I don't know how much of this is damage, and I don't know how much of this is RM3 turning the screw, using that experience to say, Jaden's hit the wall, we need you to go, and he's pushing. I don't know which one it is, one more than the other. Ty Killer is not being cleared right now by Jaden Munoz, and that is going to be critical, almost as critical as Kevin Birrell and Logan Edwards still there on the back of this here. Robert Malechka, the third, right now, this moment, could be driving himself to his third Indy 500 on iRacing.
Certainly, 22 to go. It'll be 21 to go next time round, and of course, realistically, Munoz needs to dispatch this car as quickly as he possibly can, but he can't do so. He's stuck behind them just for now. That gap to Malechka is up to 1.4 seconds. It's growing 10th by 10th, lap by lap, and you'd imagine that these two will be in soon. You'd think maybe 17 to go at max, so 5 more to go, and they'll have to be into the pit so they can get to the end of this one, as Chad Simpson makes a move ahead of Peter Berryman, and we can see the last lap there, just a 10th in the advantage of Robert Malechka, the third. But of course, the key thing to note is that Simpson did make a move ahead of Peter Berryman.
Well, they're not pushing as hard as they could be, because Simon and Falkingham are quicker here, and this is going to be a move for position between Simpson and Berryman. This is what we expect to be either for third or for fourth out there, that pass, as Berryman gets the move done, depending on where they are. They've got to catch Logan Edwards here at the moment, who could be good to go to the end of this one. Logan, by the way, is about 7 seconds down the road, so a lot for these two, and they're working together now because they realise, hang on a minute, Third's gone down the road here. We need to catch the one less stop of what is going to be in this race, Logan Edwards.
Of course, he'll be a key one to keep an eye on here as the race goes on. So these two just need to bring that gap down. Berryman goes back ahead of Simpson, and they'll run along nicely. And you can just see now the cars are pushing a little bit more here with 20 laps to go in this race. And Munoz there will be taking the lead, as that will be Robert Malechler III into the pit lane for the final time. It'll be 19 laps of full push to the end.
This is the money-making stop now for him. He knows he comes in earlier. He knows now he's got to make this work. He will also be keeping a very close eye on Jaden Munoz and what he's going to do, how long he stays out. Ty Killer, I think, understands that he's been stuck out in this one, and Jaden can't quite find a way by, but he has indicated, I'm coming down into the pit, so it's going to be a one-lap difference in terms of tyre at the end. Ty Killer is also going to jump down into the pits at the same time. So this is going to be a big battle that we're going to note here out there for this one. Malechka the third behind Tamas Simon and Daniel Folkingham out there who have to push. Tamas Simon is now coming down into the pits to get his stop done as well, which only leaves Daniel Folkingham. He's in as well. This is the race, and I wouldn't be shocked to see RM3 take the lead by at least 2 seconds.
Indeed, this will be a key one to keep an eye on. So Munoz, Simon and Folkingham are in the pit lane. So they'll head back out. There is Munoz heading out, and Malechka will go out way before Munoz gets back onto track. This will be close. It will definitely be a couple of seconds, I'd imagine, here. As there is Malechka just going past Jaden Munoz now, and he takes that lead comfortably by a couple of seconds at least, I'd imagine, here.
But Jaden's got to get up to speed, and he's got to try and use that laps advantage on tyre. He knows he's good to the end. He knows that RM3 is good to the end. It's just a question of how good is good out there in this one. Birrell, we know, will have to come in and make a stop. Logan Edwards is going to be dicey getting to the end of this race. He needs Kevin Birrell's help, and he knows he's 3 seconds clear at the moment, effectively, for this third place. That could be the moment that it all snaps in the groups behind as they try and work through. But Jaden Munoz knows if he wants his first, he's going to have to wrestle it, and he has clipped the wall on one occasion out there. This is for third, and right now Logan Edwards right now is saying that Kevin Birrell right now is his saving grace.
Certainly, he needs that slipstream of the car ahead to 1 help fuel 7-2 to get that slipstream. That gap between himself and Chad Simpson is staying the same over the past couple of laps. It's consistent at 3.1 seconds.
Berryman then will move to the inside. He's got to keep making these passes, and he does so because they're also working at exactly the same point here, Nathan, to keep Tamas Simon back there at 9/10.
They've got such a hard job because, one, they want to battle for position. They've then got to catch up to a car that's 3 seconds up the road. Then they've got to keep a car behind them. This is a very, very tense couple of laps now for Chad Simpson and Peter Berryman, but 2 drivers with experience who know what they're doing. They are 2 drivers that you'd put in this situation to work together, to battle for position, to go ahead, and to also keep a car behind. That gap between the top 2, 1.2 seconds, so it's slightly coming down now, as this will be Berryman back up the inside of Simpson. But look how close that Tamas Simon is getting here. He's really bringing the gap down.
He's having to burn now to get himself close, and don't count out the Hungarian. Tamas Simon is known for being lightning quick, and he is going to make his presence known late here at Indy. A block defence into one that turns into an attack. This is where it gets scary. Chad Simpson putting the car in places he wouldn't necessarily want them to be. Now they're 2 wide here through 2. Watch out on the exit there. Berryman gets the run. Now here comes Tamas Simon, looking to get the drive. Covered off block. Now they're going to swap the beams. 3 wide they will be into turn 3. Tamas absolutely burning it, trying to get it through, but it's still Berryman who holds down low.
Oh, and some great work there by Simon to make 1 move. He might be looking to make a second. He was on the outside. Down to turn 1. He's got Berryman on the inside. He's got a really good run. There's Tamas Simon, but of course, can he keep it there? As they head into turn 1, they go. Berryman's back up the inside. It's side by side through the opening corner. Berryman, for now, has just about kept himself ahead, but Simon is still trying to carry it around that outside line. But Berryman holds on. Now to the inside goes Simon.
Gets the clearance now and finally can say he's up to 5th place here in this race, and he'll be eyeing 4th and 3rd when Birrell has to pit and if Logan Edwards has to out there at this point. Talk about the gap at the front. It's 1.2 seconds right now for Robert Malechka, the third, 1.3 and 2 cars in between. Traffic's going to play a huge factor late on, but they continue on the weave and wiggle here, and Berryman will look down low and try and take this back from Tamas Simon and moves up the circuit at 1 and gets the clearance.
He certainly does some great work there by Peter Berryman. Of course, the very, very tense moments as Chance
Do you think
Simpson
Chance fuel saving?
back. He could be, because he's really dropping back here from these two. He's about a second back now. As Simon goes back to the outside, it could certainly be a fuel save here for Chad Simpson.
I think he knows that he can't run at the same pace that they're running. They're going all guns blazing. He's got to play that in mind at the moment, and they will know how much this is going to be hurting them. Gap now out to 1.7 now for Jaden Munoz, as again Tamas Simon gets the clearance down through, and still they're stuck right now at about 2.5 behind Logan Edwards, who's doing just about enough to keep them at bay. They know this is the race for 4th at the moment. If there is a case of I can save the fuel or can't, Munoz's race is being written right now by Indy Kirkenbauer and Manuel Sudo.
Indeed, as 1.6 seconds now, so the gap's got up between the top two, and the gap is closing down once more between Simon and Peter Berryman. The gap back to Logan Edwards now is about 2.5 seconds, so they are bringing that gap down nicely. Brought it down by half a second over the past couple of laps as Berryman goes back up the inside and retakes that position. And Chad Simpson has got to be fuel saving because he's still roughly 8 to 9 tenths back from those two ahead, and he's just sitting there for now. And you'd imagine maybe that battle for 3rd for him could be over as Berryman hooks the inside line and then moves back over to cover from Tamas Simon.
I don't play those games, said Tamas Simon. Here's Jaden Munoz. He's desperate to clear Manuel Sudo here to go and get by. He knows that he needs the help and he's not going to get it. He's got to do it all on his own. And that gap has skyrocketed in the final stages. Malechka has already jumped by Liam O'Sullivan. He's just jumping the train. Better 2 seconds of Damocles.
And then with 10 laps to go, you'd imagine that there's no way that RM3 will drop this gap. There we can see him on our screens. He's got a couple of laps, cars ahead, 2.1 seconds. He's pulling clear now of Jaden Munoz, a battle that we've seen all race long that we never thought would end up like this. Well, it certainly has. 2.2 seconds in Malechka's favour. And then, of course, we look further down, and Logan Edwards is still holding on here. That gap's around 2 seconds as Kevin Birrell heads into the pits.
That's the lifeline gone. He's got to do it on his own from here if he wants 3rd place with those 2 seconds. It's about how he manages it from here. And I note this now, Nathan. If you get a caution between 5 and 2 laps to go, this one goes official and says that's that. If you need a safety car to go and help you, you need it in the next 4 laps.
And I don't think that'll be very likely. We'll have to wait and see. 8 to go now. And it is RM3. That gap has been brought down slightly, though, by Jaden Munoz. Down to 1.7 seconds here, so maybe it was a bit of tyre saving and fuel saving there for Jaden Munoz, as here we do see our top two on our screens. Robert Malechka the 3rd and Jaden Munoz in P2. And this could still go to the end because that gap is starting to fly down.
I think he understands this, does Jaden Munoz. He had a shot. He had the best shot of anyone to go and win this Indy 500. The gap is currently 1.6 seconds. He's not giving this one up. He's getting the help from Liam O'Sullivan, but this one is going to have to be late. In front of Malechka is Matthew Zwack, and then Anna Klemic as the next two to try and get by. So 1.4 is the margin now. Is this going to be brought back late? Is there a way to get this back late? He's trying to do everything in his power. It's not over yet.
It certainly isn't, and we can see here Malechka's going to have to get past a couple more lapped cars. That gap now between himself and Munoz down to 1.2 seconds. It was up to 2.2 seconds a couple of laps ago. So is there a late change? Is there a late twist in this race? Because that gap is flying down here. Malechka can't get past the lapped cars. It's here we see again Berryman and Simon having a battle. As they can, no, sorry, this is Edwards. Edwards under pressure here from Tamas Simon for 3rd.
He's been caught, and Tamas Simon has dropped Peter Berryman. He can go quicker, and this is a huge moment for Hungary, as there's the pass that puts the Caesar Esports car up into third position. Logan Edwards, who had been valiant in trying to hold this back, can't get there. Lead gap now is 9/10 of a second. Munoz has got to clear Matthew Zwack.
He's got to do this quickly. 5 to go after this lap here for our race leader. And Munoz has to get this move done within the lap. He's got to get it done realistically by the time they head through turn 3 and turn 4. Otherwise, that chance of fighting for the win could be over, because there's another car there behind him as well. He's gone a tad wide and lost a little bit of time as Logan Edwards is in. He can't make it to the end.
He can't, so he'll have to sacrifice the position. He's 5 laps shy. He was forced to go at a pace too quick. Munoz really stuck. He's also got Chris Vondenessa, the what could have been story of today, directly behind. Could he play a factor late? If he gets through out there, could he basically give a tow rope to Jaden Munoz back to RM3? This could be huge right now. 4 laps to go. Welcome to the danger zone. Any instant for anyone here ends this race outright. 9/10 for Jaden Munoz, and he's now clear. He's got a chase, but Malechka has the tow rope of Klemic in the Taylor Mills racing car.
Indeed, so whenever Munoz gets a chance to fight through, Malechka also gets one himself. That gap's just dead at a second. Drops down now to 9/10 of a second here. And looking down at third, I should say, that gap's now nearly 2 seconds between Tamas Simon and Peter Berryman. Maybe there's a chance that Chad Simpson can close in late on the back of Berryman. Those two seem to maybe play their strategies a little bit too dicey with the fuel, because both of them are having to heavily fuel save. And the gap now between Malechka and Munoz, 3 to go, 8/10 of a second, you'd imagine. Now, this is done and dusted for RM3.
I don't think so. If Munoz can take another 10th through these next 2 corners, he's going to be very much in the wheelhouse. And this is tough, because you get a bucket of dirty air. It's 7/10 of a second. Still trying to work on the high side. 6/10 of a second now. Jaden Munoz is doing everything he can to claw it back in. Does Anna Klemic let this one go into 1? Yes, popsicle sticks out. 2 to go at Indy.
And you'd imagine now Munoz has to try and dispatch Anna Klemic as quickly as he possibly can. That gap already growing. Now Malechka has gone past and gone through. 2 to go, 9/10 of a second. You'd imagine now without any sort, unless there's some sort of incident for Malechka, there's no way that he's going to lose this one now.
Anna knows that she's probably going to get a beer at the end of this one, or a drink of her choosing, if she knows that that was the moment that the race is going to be made. Barney awaits them here at the bricks for one final lap. Here at Indianapolis, Robert Malechka III on a 190-lap green flag run has been looking at this margin. It looked like it was all over when Jaden Munoz tagged the wall with about 45 laps to go. And it is noted that Malechka has had to dig down deep. He did this exactly the same way in time slot 1. He's looking to do so again here in time slot 3. No driver has ever gone and won the Indy Fix twice. Robert Malechka III through turn 4. It's going to come to the line. Brendan Trado, you have company. RM3 gets his 3rd iRacing Indy 500.
What an ending that was. And of course, Jaden Munoz in P2. What a fight that was to the line in a couple more laps, and that could have certainly gone either way to both first and second. And Tamas Simon crosses the line in 3rd as well for Caesar Esports, and will be very happy with that result for Hungary.
What a day, what a race, and the concentration that was there and set and sorted and needed. Absolutely magnificent. Ultimately, it will be just 13 cars that are going to finish this race on the leading lap, but he's got number 3 on the car for a reason. This was a day of destiny that was needed, and he knew that it was only going to be time. He was so close for the likes of Power Slide Team Hype in 1 year ago. But now he knows that once again, he's going to get it exactly how he knows. Milk, bricks, the lot.
Indeed, and what a result. And that's two in 2 days. And of course, he can go again next week in the Open. What a result for RM3. And that must feel absolutely brilliant. I mean, with 30 laps to go, it was pretty much done and dusty for him, wasn't it? He didn't have to do much to hold on. It was just a drive to the end and a drive to the finish.
It is simply put his era at the moment, and you have to try and get around him. Fastest in qualifying of all competitors, and someone who has to be beaten. Started this one from pole and knew that he just had to run roughshod at the front, and did exactly that here in Fix. So he'll be very happy that he's got this result, and his second iRacing Indy 500 fixed, his third overall. And ultimately, those were the qualifying results that put themselves together. But 2 hours, 21 minutes and 54 seconds later, it is a lightning fast Indy 500 that Robert Malechka III has won. Half a second over Jaden Munoz, with Tamas Simon in third. Your reigning champion Peter Berryman ultimately is going to fall short in fourth, with Chad Simpson fifth and Daniel Folkingham in sixth. Brendan Lichtenberg would be seventh ahead of John Silver, with Lucas Prada ninth and Jose Soria rounding out your top 10 for Spain. Esteban Rodriguez, Matt Taylor and Aman Lal would be the last cars on the lead lap. Anna Klemic playing a critical factor in the final couple of laps in the number 7. She gets a well-deserved, though, 14th place finish here today after starting 31st. Your biggest gainer, John Silver, a gain of 20. It's then Matthew Zwack and Liam O'Sullivan, with Indy Kirkenbauer, Manuel Sudo, Kevin Birrell and Logan Edwards, all 1 lap down in this one. Ty Killer at 2 laps down. What could have been for Chris Fondanessa without a disconnect? 4 laps down for him. Klendworth at 13, and your retirees, Jose Fazaro, David Toft, Rodin Eftink. You have Matteo Kunter, Christian Steele, Brendan Clough, Brandon Trost, and then on top of that, the final 3. Down at the bottom, Pedro Palladino, along with Jason Brophy and Adam Williams out there at this stage. What a moment we have just witnessed here with your iRacing Indy 500 fix. It's not over. We got more races to come along and get to the end and finishes with, but we got drivers here ready and waiting to have a chat with at this stage. Robert Malechka III is here with us. RM3, it is your third iRacing Indy 500 crown. 2 in the fixed, 1 in the open. That for you, a long day at the office with 190 green flag laps.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the setup has really high camber, so I'm pretty sure we're all kind of feeling it in the shoulders and the wrist. So, yeah, I mean, we all kind of got an idea of how this would race yesterday. It's not enjoyable race at all, frankly, but Jade and I had really good pace after Chris code Jason there lap 1, and you know, we basically knew Chris doing the same thing that we knew it was going to be between both of us. So was just trying to get the fuel advantage over him, because the light fuel and the new tires they really make a difference, which is like the only really fun factor about the combo right now. So yeah, and then came out with a decent lead. And new Jaden had a 1 lap pressure tire, so he was going to be pushing in, to get within 0.6. Took a ton of risk for him. So, it's a bit of a shame what happened with the lap traffic. I think we could have put on a little bit of a show there at the end, but nonetheless, really good to get my second fix.
They don't ask you how you win an Indy 500. They ask you how many you win. You now find yourself in elite company. It's only you and Brandon Traino who have 3 Indy 500s in their back pocket. What does that mean to you as a legacy and the opportunity in 7 days' time to try and not only go one better, but try and attempt the double-double, 2 years, 2 wins?
Yeah, I've done the double before, except that was 2 wins in 2 days, right? So, Traino is the gold standard, right? He always has and he always will. So that's a bit of a shame that I never got to really race him and I guess beat him for a win to kind of take that crown per se. But I can't say enough good for what Traino does, not only on the track but for the well.
Wow. go get your glass of milk and be happy and be very, very with it. Robert Malechka III, your winner. Second overall, Jaden Munoz. Jaden, critically for you in the Burosud Plus car, that was a really strong attempt. The strategy got you out there early. It got you in a position of 1v1, exactly what you want. Was the moment the race changed, the part where you clipped the wall with 45 to go out of 2?
I wouldn't say that. As long as I don't get any damage, I'd be fine. But I think the turning point was, I honestly had quite an advantage, quite an advantage, but like a small advantage on Rob before the last pit stop. I was going to go an extra lap compared to him, and yeah, the guy, there were back markers that were just covering both lanes, and yeah, it was super hard to pass them, and yeah, they made it hard for me to pass. So yeah, that lost me a bit of time, and I had to catch Rob, and yeah, it's tough to keep up when with the lappers in the way, but yeah, it is what it is. It's racing at the end of the day, and P2 is still a great result, but yeah. I've been chasing the win here for a few years, so yeah, I'm still looking for it.
Well, you're not a million miles away. That's the good news. You're only, well, let's just look at the gap. Half a second off at the moment. So you've got another chance again in 7 days. You open the setup so you can build it how you like. How do you think that's going to make the racing different as you head back to Indy and try and finally find that way to get your first?
Too much traffic testing with the race for the open setup. Sorry. So I'm not completely sure, but I expect it to be a lot better than this. So, but yeah, it's still going to be tough no matter what. And yeah, I'm going to try my very best to do my best and get the win next week.
We'd expect nothing less from you. Jaden Munoz there joining us. A second place finish here at the Brickyard. And it's going to be a case of let's jump ourselves back in here, Nathan, for more good racing, because it's still on, actually, here in many of the other splits that we got. This is 8th split at the moment. They've still got 27 laps of racing to go.
Indeed, a long, long way left in this one, of course. Ben Bennyworth, the driver I know very well over in the GT side of racing. He's currently sitting P3. You've got David Gomez Blanco in second, and then John Thompson Jr. leading the way slightly by just less than a tenth. But this is going to be a great ending here. 2.6 seconds, the top 10. A lot. Well, that was the gap we had for, I think, a portion of the race between the top 2 in our split. So this one will always go to the checkered flag, as we can see him move into turn 1 nearly 3 wide as Gomez Blanco takes the lead.
He wants to try and make some moves, and this is the great thing. We will see finishes up until the end of running, and we'll see just how critical it is. Dylan Bittman is a driver who is absolutely fantastic as well, and AJ Green on the oval side has been someone who has done it many a time before. So there are some big names out there. Bennyworth half blocking then as Bittman tries to push his way up to 4th. Wayne Hufford there in 6th place, wants to keep himself honest. And then the group behind, you've got Castamihana there, you've got Holverda, who's sitting there, and Brandon Devine, 6/10 back of that.
Indeed, a really big battle here. And of course, you look outside the top 10 likes of Hennessy and Crampton, they're only 3.5 seconds back. So they're definitely not out of contention here to get involved in that leading battle, that move for the lead potentially. As we do see there, AJ Green and Wayne Hufford very close together for a moment there. I think there was a move potentially on the cards there for Wayne Hufford, but just couldn't quite find the move. And then we can see the top 4 closing up once again. John Thompson Jr. and Ben Bennyworth all over the back of David Gomez Blanco. And then sitting in 4th, Dylan Bittman, happy to sit where he is for now and wait for an opportunity to come to him. Down to turn 1 they go, and there could certainly be a couple of moves here.
Yeah, they can. Here comes the move. Bittman's moving over. Half block from John Thompson Jr., who looks to try and push it then through 1, 2 wide, 3 deep, 24 laps to go. But here's Daniel Gomez still working on the outside, and he can really run a finite line there, out there. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to give draft to, Ben? As there's the block down low. This is what we call a hornet's nest out there at the moment to try and deal with. 3 wide up into turn 3, and they're going to be 3 wide behind that as well.
What a battle this is. The top 8 tenths of a second here, separating them all. But this time around, David Gomez Blanco's probably had the biggest gap he's had for the last few laps here. Got a 3/10 gap ahead of Dylan Bittman as AJ Green up into P4 ahead of John Thompson Jr., who's now slowly starting to drop back out of this unless he can get a move done on the outside. He hits the wall slightly. He's lost time. Everybody else behind loses time because of that. John Thompson Jr. is down to P6 here. Let's hope he's got no damage. I don't think he has. It's just he's lost so much momentum from that slight hit into the barriers.
It takes half a lap to gather the pace back up, and John Thompson Jr. has got to do the work all over again, and I think it is very, very telling. David Gomez just holding his ground at the moment and doing great, and he knows he's got to start clawing his way back up the order and saying, it's my time, it's my show, it's my ability to go and get exactly what I'm capable of. You can see Wayne Hufford just waiting there in 7th place and knowing that there is still time to go and get something sorted here with 22 laps to go. The longer this stint goes on, the tougher it is going to be to get the race that is necessarily wanted out there in this point. This is some excellent stuff then being shown. Not quite enough there for Hufford at the moment. The Canadian working his way through, but he knows there's still a long way to go yet. And there are drivers like Chris Townsend, for example, who started 26, who's trying to push a way forward.
Indeed, and now Dylan Bittman takes the lead of the race, goes ahead of David Gomez Blanco. And number 29 gets to the front. AJ Green is well up to P4, so he's not that far away from the top 3. But of course, if they all have to pit again, which I'd imagine most of them will do, this is where things get interesting with 21 laps to go. You've got so many cars who will all be barrel rolling into the pit lane at very similar times. As we saw there, Dylan Bittman defending the inside line heavily, and everybody else snaking through, following his line as they begin another lap of racing. 20 to go here in the Indy 500. 8 splits here on iRacing, and Brandon Devine goes into P11.
Yeah, we got a lot of great races here that's coming along. We'll keep an eye on this with 21 laps to go, but with 2 laps remaining here as they sit, Fernando Antoli here in 19th has got Kevin Adam at a length at this stage, with the likes there of Pedro sitting there in 3rd and trying to keep himself in play. This is critical right now.
It certainly is. So 1.5 laps to go here in this one, and it's Fernando Antoli Busquets who has the lead, 1.2 seconds. The main battle is for 2nd and 3rd. Kevin Adam ahead of Pedro Sanchez Albert. On the outside goes Pedro Sanchez, makes a move unless Kevin Adam can get back up the inside. It's around the outside. What a move that was. Superb from number 18.
That's enough to say I've got a gap heading to the white flag. Fernando Antoli, who at the time I started seeing him out there in sim racing, was lightning fast for Obsidian Racing. It was a team that built itself up. It was the team that Pablo Espes found himself in before he moved over to Williams, and he will know that he has had a mega drive out there today with so many drivers trying to give chase behind. Pedro Sanchez will be his saving grace out there, knowing that Kevin Adam couldn't quite hold it in station. Through 3, hold the nerves, get yourself over to turn 4, because in 19th split, the first of those who decided I'm going to show up and see what I can do, Fernando Antoli Busquets is going to come to the line and win here at Indy. So we note now that this now moves over to 18th split out there at the moment, so that's going to be critical. Ben Bennyworth there in the wall, contact, Bittman goes around, caution flag flies.
Oh dear me, that was always going to happen, wasn't it? 18 to go. You've got 5 cars separated within a second. Someone was going to end up in the barriers, and it's Dylan Bittman who was in the lead a couple of laps ago. We've switched back at the perfect time, and it will be yellow flag here. 17 to go. Ben Bennyworth ahead of David Gomez Blanco. You've got AJ Green, Claudia Kazmajani, and then John Thompson Jr., the top 5. You'd imagine all of these will go back into the pit lane.
AJ Green got into that one, the heaviest there. You just get this thing called a groove or a cushion out there. We talk about it more in dirt circles, but the way that the marbles drop off, Nathan, of these Firestone tyres, they go up on the top side of the circuit, it gets slick up high. So if you find yourself too far up, there's no way to come back.
No, but they've got to be very, very careful with the lines they take here, as they've now all pulled up behind the safety car. Everybody gets back involved in this one, so what a finish this could certainly be. And I'd like to say, I don't think this will be the final caution either, Jake. With what we've seen so far, the gaps we've had, I mean, it's been clean driving, really, really good racing from what we've seen in the past 10 laps, but can't imagine that it'll stay green all the way to the end, because this is proper passion, isn't it, from these drivers? They all want to be in the lead. It's obviously in the top split, they all kind of have a strategy and a plan, whereas these are just gunning for it, aren't they?
Well, they're down to 16 on the leading lap, and AJ Green's going to need to take as much service as possible. I'll tell you who you do need to catch an eye out on. It's Cloudy Casamitana, who is there in third place. Started this one, Nathan, 30th.
That takes something, doesn't it, to now be in third and potentially be fighting for the race win at the end. I mean, to go from 30th to third, making 27 spots, is certainly something. I mean, we saw that in top split with Lichtenberg, made quite a few.
Let's move on to 10th split now, where there are 19 laps to go, and you've got Jorge Alvarez then sat up front, Jacob Klein in second, and Austin Meenan in third. There's big gaps out there. They're down to just 6 on the leading lap, because many drivers have found themselves in a bit of trouble. Hey, look, there's a second Tamash Simon in here who's out there and racing. So that pretty much tells you all you need to know about how tough of a day that it has certainly been for many out there to go and sit at. Alexander Cole has found himself into trouble. Brian Evie, Leander Zessin, they've all found themselves out of the race and out the race pretty early on as far as racing goes. So you're just trying to set yourself up and say, look, we're trying to avoid the big one. Sometimes for drivers, it ends the race very, very early, but this has been a controlled race out there with not many left in the party. Meenan versus Hessling is the scrap for third.
Yes, it seems like it's been a very, very chaotic race here. I mean, that's what, 6 cars on the lead lap, and the top 2 are separated by 9.2 seconds. Jorge Alvarez ahead of Jacob Klein and Austin Meenan in third. And then, of course, the only real battle there is third and fourth, and fifth and sixth between Nathaniel Baker and Nolan Gross. That's only a couple of tenths separating those two. They have 17 laps to go, so no mistakes really. And you'd imagine your top 2 will stay the same. Maybe third could have a change, but surely the top 2 can take that to the finish. Jacob Klein is in the pit lane.
Yeah, so that's going to make a change then, as they will look at their strategy. Austin Meenan then having to make his last pit stop of the race as well. So Nick Hessling will be hoping that he can get that one home and dry. It now brings Nathaniel Baker and Nolan Gross into position where they can both maybe make a factor late on and say, look, we're racing out there now for a third place. And now you're going to see pull over to the left-hand side. Here goes another one down in onto the lane. So that will sit your leaders, Jorge Alvarez, then to say, look, I'm going to make my final stop of the race. Nick Hessling then staying out. I think we're firmly in strat window.
Certainly are. 16 to go. Yeah, you'd imagine that Hessling and Baker should be in soon as well, as Hessling will retake that race lead. Jorge Alvarez will drop down the field. Of course, Jacob Klein his battle. Well, not really much of a battle in anything, but it was the car that was behind him at least. Because here is Nick Hessling with a nice gap in front. Of course, he'll have to come in soon as well, so he'll drop back down to where he was originally. 15 laps to go here in the 10th split, and also Nick Hessling has gone very long to be able to pit with 15 laps to go, or maybe with even less laps to go. He must have gone really late on that last pit stop, but then again, I suppose that when you have cautions, which there's definitely been a lot here, that all adds in, as the second of the Tamash Simons has been in the pit lane. Aaron Fontana and Freddie Rogers as well have all been in the pits for their final stops.
They have, and they will note and understand that this has been a hard yard style of race. Oh, that's high from Nick Hessling there, having to let one go that's slightly quicker, and so you're trying to just manage the margins then as you set yourself back into play, and it's been tough out there as we go through. We're going to go to 27th split, because with 2 laps to go, we've got a showdown here. under yellow. Lights are off. They'll get a one-lap dash. Andre Vitor Diaz, Trey Cleveland, Flavio Barros, and Gregory Leon, your top four. And then you got Marcelo Ferraro then in 5th place, who could play a factor late. So strap in, hold on to your hats. Andre Vitor Diaz is going to need an almighty charge here to hold off what is there for Cleveland, for Barros, and for Leon, who sit there at this stage. Here comes the drive then, and now the launch, because you get your artificial green-white checker in the air, and it will go official no matter what. Trying to shake his draft here is Andre Vitor Diaz, working his way through one. Big low line under the apron slightly there from Trey Cleveland. If he's going to get the run, he's going to need to get the run out of 3, and he's all over the rear tyre, then coming through 2. Now they are going to have to go side by side. Trey Cleveland is going to have to go the road hard travelled for it here. Barrios is sat at half a second. Ferraro and Leon aren't going to get anywhere near. Covered by Diaz, then through 3, into 4. Anything left for you? Is this going to be a drag race? Trey Cleveland trying to throw it to the outside. He's got a lane. He's got a lane. He's got drive. It's Trey Cleveland. No! He's turned over the nose. Andre Vitor Diaz has got it. He was turned over the nose.
Oh my, that was close indeed, and Flavio Barros takes P2 in the end of that one. And here we go, back to 8 split. We're back under green racing here, and we have 12 laps to go. David Gomez Blanco in the lead ahead of Ben Bennyworth and John Thompson Jr. top 3.
David Gomez Blanco racing about at the moment for Momo. For Ben Bennyworth, he races for Quartermass Motorsport, and he knows how critical it is. They're trying to shake draft at the moment here with 12 laps to go, knowing it's still a very big train out there trying to figure this out to the end of this race, where they've had an instant here, an instant there, and they've all been trying to go for it. There's going to be an issue in the back as Nicholas Stratos, the pole sitter, is flipping. Caution comes out again.
Oh dear me, 11 to go, another caution at least. They'll get more green flag running as long as it's before 5 to go. So before lap 195 as we go back towards split 10, 11 laps to go. And George Alvarez now ahead of Nathaniel Baker and Erlen Gross in 3rd place. Juan Aguirre up in P4 as well. So a couple of drivers are making their way up the field. I'd imagine a couple of them may still need to pit here, Jake.
Well, it's close, and so this is going to be one where you're just going to have to hold on and hope it's there with 10 laps to go, because George Alvarez here up against Nathaniel Baker, up against Nolan Gross, 1.6 between the top 3. This has all the hallmarks, if they can get this one home and dry, of a 10th split race here in the iRacing Indy 500 fixed split, where it could go absolutely down to the wire. But look at Baker drop the time. Nolan Gross is pushing, and I think Baker's trying to save.
Indeed, we also have a battle for 5th as well, as Jacob Klein ahead of Francisco Yaces as well. That's a great battle to keep an eye on as we make our way through. And this is a battle for 4th too, as Juan Aguirre is there too. So Jacob Klein trying to make the move. Up the inside he goes. He has the run down towards turn 1. Can he take P4? Yes, he can. He flies through into 4th place, and then behind is where one needs to watch out for, because Francisco Yaceres has got a lot of pace in that number 60.
Yaceres is going to be someone definitely to keep a note out in this group. Alvarez is pushing away. Nolan Gross can't find a way through, and I think they're trying to make sure that they're safe and dry in terms of fuel numbers. So here comes the push then. Straight on through, straight on by. Yaceres is going to get the clearance now on Juan Aguirre. Then as he looks to work through 4 and says, thank you very much, I'll have another. Still on here for Nolan Gross, but I think this is a battle between 2 drivers here who both want to fuel save.
Yeah, certainly. It's got to be a test to the end. 8 to go. They've just got to hope they don't run out of fuel, but they're doing very, very similar lap times at the minute. One of them's going to have to burst at one point to push, and of course, sometimes a little bit too much push can end in one of them running out of fuel. So they've got to be careful now with 8 to go of what they want to do. Of course, George Alvarez, you'd imagine, can run away with this one easily and take that race win. But of course, Baker and Gross, a great battle for P2 here. That was really deep there for Baker, nearly hitting the barriers.
He's got to be careful. This has allowed Nolan Gross to make this pass. He gets down low, he'll get the clearance, and finally he'll dispatch of it up to second with 7 laps to go. That is comfy as far as a pass will go. Jacob Klein will know and understand that he is there in 4th, and he's holding on with Francisco Yasares, and is probably relying here on some late lap drama on a field that's pretty sparse, actually. It feels like an old school Indy 500 from the 30s, the 40s, with how many finishes are on the lead lap.
Certainly, yeah, 8 cars on the lead lap. And then you look down to P13, 12 laps off. There's been lots and lots of carnage in this split for sure. 7 laps to go, and the battle for P2 still continues on. There's a battle for 4th still, as Uceris is on the back of Klein. That's only about half a second apart. So then maybe Austin Meenan, who was up in 3rd earlier on when we was here, maybe he could try and have a dart at going for P6 in that 27 car.
So, they now know that as they are looking to get themselves in for the final stages of running, this is going to be all about, can you manage it? Can you just find that move, even if it's for second? Late caution!
6 laps to go. That might be enough to
They'll
maybe
get
go
2
again.
laps.
Oh, that'll be close. Very, very close. 2 to go. And George Alvarez, all that work he's done might be thrown away. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him with 2 laps of racing to go.
I think it's Aaron Fontaine who found himself caught up, so perfect time to jump back to split 8, who are on 1 lap to green now at this point, and they will get back going here, Nathan, with 7 laps left. David Gomez Blanco, Ben Bennyworth, John Thompson Jr., who's fought his way back to 3rd, and Claudio Casamitana, who is there and doing everything from 30th to say, I am right in the wheelhouse.
Certainly, this one is going to be a really tight race to the end. As we can see here, Jake, a lot of splits are starting to come through now.
They are. You can see the likes of Corey Precker, who's won split 12, Lars Chenoweth, Reed Sweeney, and Gabriel Krefter taking splits 2, 3, and 4. Nick Pressey then in split 6 with David Henger. Then in split 20, getting some results out there here in time slot 3. There is the likes of Kyle Ridley, who's done well in split 21. John McHutchinson has got one, so has Alvaro Campos and Steve Marish, all getting results. Then have finished, and Nathan Bernabe, and then in 30-second split as well, getting a strong result at this point in time. But we are running ourselves then through turn 4 in split 8, and we'll be getting ready for a restart. It is going to be one with 7 laps to go. If they're going to have an issue, they're going to have one quickly in a race that has been chop and change, chop and change, chop and change. Who's timed it late? How many heat cycles have you gone through? David Gomez, Ben Bennyworth, your top 2. Good launch by David Gomez. Green flag's going to come along, and is there going to be an overtake before the line then for John Thompson Jr.? Thought about the move, elects to go against making the pass.
Indeed, so 7 to go here in the 8th splits of racing. John Thompson Jr., who remember hit the wall and dropped down to P6, is back in that fight in 3rd. You can see there Gomez Blanco defending, going every line which he can to stop Ben Bennyworth from making the move. He goes to the outside, he makes the move for the lead.
He sweeps around turn 3 and says it's his turn now. Out at the front, whose ego's going to prevail now in this group? It's 3 clear. Claudio Casamitana is going to have to work hard to get back. More weaving out there as Bennyworth tries to cover off any sort of move, but David Gomez gets to the inside, and he's going to get the clearance through the corner. Bennyworth pinning it up on that high side through 1. The short shoot run to turn 2, and they'll know they'll hit that magical 5 laps to go moment that they've got to be very careful of now at this stage. Thompson chasing down, as well as side by side between Hennessy and Green, and now Hufford and Casamitana. So they're all going at it too wide now.
Indeed, and you can see there John Thompson Jr. in 3rd, just waiting for something to come his way, waiting for an opportunity to dart up the inside and make a move potentially. 6 laps to go. It will be 5 laps to go next time around, and that's 3 wide down to turn 1.
Hennessy looking around at it. Casamitana dropping back and a few more places. Hufford up the order with AJ Green now as they race out for it for fourth. Ben Bennyworth now is trying to put himself in the wheelhouse here. He knows that he's just got to settle with it, give himself a couple laps. Don't allow John Thompson Jr. the chance to get himself into play here. That's going to be worth its weight in gold as AJ Green, after the damaged front wing, 2 cautions ago, now he finds himself to fourth.
Indeed he does. Less than a tenth now the battle for the top 2. As we do see one of those cars, I think, with damage. Someone's rolling off with 3 wheels. Someone's hit the barriers, as we do now see a battle for the lead once again. As David Gomez Blanco holds on ahead of Ben Bennyworth. You've got John Thompson Jr. there in third, and AJ Green starting to bring that gap down potentially, as well as Wayne Hufford holding on ahead of Andrew Hennessy, who drops down a couple of spots, and Gomez Blanco defending harshly once more. He knows that Ben Bennyworth's going to have the run here.
Well, he had to drop the time, did Hennessy. He dropped under the apron, had a half spin. We stay green as he didn't break the plane going on through. So that's going to be critical. 4 now to the floor. AJ Green making a charge late then here in this one, and it's about finding the right place. Here comes AJ Green. He's going for third. He might go for second here. Ben Bennyworth's got a better drive of it, though, on the outside of turn 1 in towards turn 2 with 3 laps to go. It's going to be AJ Green up to third, one at a time, buddy.
Indeed, and John Thompson Jr. has been caught napping there as AJ Green makes his way into third and maybe have a chance here of making his way into second place. And he's got a great run now on the back of Ben Bennyworth with 3 laps to go, 2.5 pretty much at this point, as they head through 3 and 4. And they'll have 2 more to go in this one, and Gomez Blanco again defending so harshly, nearly hitting the pit wall as he wants to try and break that toe from Ben Bennyworth and AJ Green and even John Thompson Jr. It's a 4-car fight for the win. 2 laps to go here, and Ben Bennyworth again looking to get on the charge.
Hufford closing again. Casamitana trying to get there, clips the wall out of 2. Now that's going to bring Matthias Heinzelmann then into position. He moves up now into 6th place. Still trying to shake hard is David Gomez Blanco.
Indeed he is, and we do see some moves happening further down as well. A couple of cars in the pit lane.
Yeah.
And it'll be 1 to go here, Jake, and of course it is, once again, David Gomez Blanco holding the lead as this is the final lap in split 10.
Yep, so it's 2 final laps that's going on at the same time here. Alvarez is holding his mark. We're going to have to be careful. AJ Green in split 8. Oh, I'm going to be calling both races out there at this point. It's brilliant. Alvarez then holding his mark with Baker. Klein trying to keep himself in play. Gomez Blanco holds in split 8 at the moment with Bennyworth, and AJ Green now going to the outside trying to get something done in 3. Through 3 and 4. It looks like Jorge Alvarez is going to get there. It looks like he's got enough of the gap. He's going to go and see. It's going to be a chase late by Nathaniel Baker, but he's a day late and $1 short. He's not going to get there. Drag racing split 8 over to the line. David Gomez, AJ Green was 4th, 3 laps to go. Can he get there? No. Oh, they recover the line. It's David Gomez Blanco by 17 thousandths of a second. Oh my goodness me.
Oh, that was a wreck over the line for sure. 3 of them involved, but it was Gomez Blanco who took the win in that. And there is, I believe, Ben Bennyworth's car. And then we can see, Jake, that screen is really starting to fill up now. Most of our top 20 splits are done.
Wow. Absolutely wow. What wonderful running. Split 8, split 10. We've got those, and that's almost everything said and done on the docket. Hayata Matsuda getting split 5 done as well, which is key. Yvonne Gosmak then over in split 7. Nathan, wow. This is the Indy 500 fix, but for every single split going down, the margins are finite. The levels that you have to go to are absolutely insane.
Indeed, and I think what we just saw there proves that just because Split 1 has got the quote-unquote best drivers, they don't always deliver the best racing. What we saw lower down in like Split 10 and Split 8 a moment ago was a lot better than what we saw up in that top split. And it just shows that no matter your skill level and what split you're in, you can still have fun and still have battles to the line. That was a very intense couple of minutes. And I don't think, Jake, you've ever called 2 races in the space of 30 seconds.
I think I'm going to have to get my inner Kevin Harlan on the phone then after that one. My, oh my. That is absolutely wonderful out there. And that's the sort of experience you can get out there on iRacing. You can find your level, you can race at your level, you can experience IndyCar on iRacing today by visiting iRacing.com. 30% off for a brand new membership. I would say that is a perfect deal, Nathan, to go and get.
Yeah. Oh, certainly. I've been on the iRacing platform now for about 4 years, and believe me, I would not change it for the world. It is a great platform. And of course, the IndyCars, I'm not too in tune with them, but when I go towards like the GT racing, it is a great way to get yourself into racing. And even though I'm only 1.5K, I'm pretty much right at the bottom of the barrel, I still have as much fun as those at the top do. That's the main thing about iRacing. It's all about having fun. You can be competitive, but you can also have fun just jumping in the cockpit and saying, right, let's try and drive a car.
Absolutely. It's about what finds your fancy, and you've got a whole slew of iRacing special events that can help to facilitate that. You can get a lot in all sorts out there that goes and sets. Next time out, though, we're going to re-rack it in 7 days' time, and we're going to say gloves off. Best setups now have to come out and get itself into play. It will be the 17th running here, Nathan, of the iRacing, sorry, the 16th running of the iRacing Indy 500 here on iRacing. It's the 17th year of this competition being into play, and critically, it is one of the most fiercely competitive races out there in the world of iRacing.
It certainly is, and of course it's Philip Krause who's defending the Open of the Indy 500. Of course, RM3 finished second in that one, so no matter what, he's always on the podium somewhere, so he's got a big race ahead of him as well. Heading into that one, it's going to be a really, really good race. And of course, with the Open race, we normally do see a lot more different strategies because the cars are set up differently. Some of them are set up better for tyres, some are set up better for fuel. There's lots more to add into it, isn't there?
There is so much that can add into it and can give you that absolute level that says, let's put you on a pedestal and say, let's go get it. And let's go get it was the racing capital of the world's mantra out there. Second ever race circuit in the world. The only circuit older than that, Brookland circuit in Surrey in the United Kingdom, that doesn't find itself running anymore. You've got a chance out there to say, look, let's go and log on and say, this is your day. This is your chance to get behind the wheel. You can go to iRacing.com/special events, see the 2026 schedule. I'll tell you what I'm looking out for. 4 hours of Thruxton in the TCR cast. That's going to be epic.
That'll be chaotic. I've seen a lot of TCRs in the past, and believe me, the drivers push them cars to their limits, especially when battling side by side. That's going to be a really good race to watch. I mean, that's only next month. It's not too long until we get underway for that. And then, of course, later on in the year, we've got so many races to come up. I mean, there's, I think, at least 20 between now and the end of the year. Lots for everybody to get involved.
And so with that, you now start thinking about how that sets up. And, you know, we get the specialist teams that come out here with the Indy 500 events, but you're also looking around and noting that, you know, you've got things like the Suzuka 1,000 kilometers. That'll be coming up. That's going to be really huge for some of those drivers. 6 hours at the Glen will be coming in. Come rain or shine, there's always something for you, Nathan.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, you've got the likes of the Petit Le Mans, the Bathurst 1000, and then, of course, you've got all your NASCAR Cups as well, which will be a key thing to keep an eye on. There's so much racing for everybody to get involved in. And, of course, next time out here we have in the INDYCAR Series, the Coca-Cola 160. That is only just over a week and a half away, and that's a great race to sit back and watch.
Absolutely. You can see your coverage here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as it gets itself set, the home of great running out there in in NASCAR. But let's get through your split winners. They are all there. They are all set. They're all ready to go. This is your name in lights. If you found yourself as one of 38 out there in the world, congratulations. How do you like your milk? How would you like to kiss those bricks and say you've done it absolutely the way that everybody else knows that you had to work with to go and get there? Names from all across the world out there. We got Spaniards, we got Japanese drivers, we got drivers out there who are from Poland. We've got those who have been trying to do everything they can, and you can see all the way down to the likes of Benjamin Smalling, Tom Purr and Steve Marish there. It is a case of everyone has got their name in lights and have found a wonderful way to win here today at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But as far as this race has now set itself up into motion, my, oh my, final thoughts here, Nathan, as we bring to a close a wonderful Indy 500 fixed.
a lot of the racing we saw there has kept me speechless. It was absolutely brilliant, seeing everybody of all different abilities fighting together on track. And of course, we go all again next week, same time Saturday, back for the Open Championship. So I can't wait to get involved in that once again.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a treat because the stakes are going to be raised. That long lineage of a series that goes all the way back to 2010. And the first ever winners out there through that level, the likes of the Tim Holgates of the world, the Cam Starks, the Matt Pavelskis. They are huge in terms of the respect, the way that racing has gone about, and how much you need to be working on a level. What a honor it has been to call here with you some amazing sim racing action with your iRacing Indy 500 here on iRacing from the entire team. What an absolute privilege this has been to go and set this out and say, on top of everything, this has been what the Brickyard is all about. Great racing, hard knuckle, hard nose running at top split, 190 laps green to go and get it done. Leapfrogs through the traffic to try and survive. Jaden Munoz, your time will surely come at some point. But today, you have to run into someone who's just one step above. His name is RM3. He joins Brendan Traino now and saying he's got 3 victories out there in iRacing Indy 500s at the top split level in terms of broadcast that says he can only match and now has the opportunity next week to surpass.